Luke, how you doing, pal?
Yeah, mate, how's it going?
Yeah, fantastic, bud. Fantastic, mate. I'm sorry. I've started recording now, but we can start this whenever you like. We can go live
Yeah,
whenever you.
mate.
Well, not live, but you know what I
When,
mean.
whenever you want, dude, you record away. I'm happy to do that.
Lovely job. So, well, let's just start now then, shall we? And then we'll just get to know each other as we
Back
have the
on,
chat.
mate.
Is that all right? Like, lovely. So if I
Absolutely,
keep
dude.
if I
Absolutely.
keep looking over here, it's because normally I use a webcam on my computer, but I'm trying the
Yeah.
DJI Osmo Pocket 3, so I've got that
Yeah.
slightly different. So
Have you
apologies
got
if
have you
I'm
got
not
a
looking at you.
little studio going on? It's quite a nice
Yeah,
setting you got there.
I've literally we just like oh god, like I got an early inheritance from my dad basically. So
Yeah.
we used that money on the house and the garden because the dog was
Yeah.
managing to escape through the fences. So we've redone everything and we put a little cabin, like one of these garden cabins at the bottom of the garden. The
Oh,
idea was
nice.
it was going to be a gym stroke bar, and then I thought, well,
Yeah.
why not like use it as a bit of an office because I've just got a broom cupboard
Yeah.
normally
Yeah,
up in
yeah.
the house, so that's what I've
Little
done
man
here,
cave.
and yeah. So I've not decorated anything yet, but this is the first one from here, so
Bit more,
we'll
bit
see.
more productive. A bit more productive than a bar, anyway. I guess.
Yeah, definitely. Well, I haven't put the bar in yet. I haven't put the beer fridge in, so we'll see how productive it is after that. Speaking
Yeah.
of which, do you have you got a tipple of choice?
Sure, mate. At the moment, I'm just on the waters. I'm not
No
really drinking
dramas.
much. Well, having said that, I'm at my parents' gaff, and I'm sat in my dad's office, and like, I'm not going to be able to tilt the things you can see. He's mad about brewing. Like, he brews
Oh,
all
is
his
he?
own beer, and I'm literally surrounded. I mean, literally, here he's got one he's brewed himself. In fact, this one he brewed it legless ale.
Oh, wow, awesome. Is
Yeah,
that in honor of you then, is it? Or
yeah. Well, actually, I did a thing on my Instagram when I did a like a session brewing with him.
yeah.
And I put a question up on my Instagram saying if anyone wants to name the next beer, like the most liked comment will name it that. And I never announced it. I just realised he printed it all up and it sat here. But Legless Ale was the most liked
Awesome.
comment, so that's what I ended up getting. It ended up
Good.
getting made. There's quite a few good ones though, like Hop Along and all that sort of thing.
Yeah, nice one. Nice one.
Funny leg
You got
puns. But
you've got a damn good community going on round about you on
yeah,
social
it's
media.
nice.
Yeah,
It's
well,
nice.
we'll get into that later on. Mate, I should have asked you this when we were chatting on DMs and stuff. How long have you
Yeah.
got? Because that'll let me know how to tailor this.
Hop Along, man. I've done my things for the day. I've
Okay.
had a hectic bombing around hospital appointments as always, so I'm all yours, mate.
Okay,
How
mate.
long your normal episodes? Is it what
Uh,
however long?
Yeah, I would say normally they're 2 to 3 hours. Normally, I've got some that have been
Yeah.
less than an hour. I've got a few that have gone to like 5 hours, 7 hours. Just, but I'm not gonna put you through that. But yeah, if you can spare like an hour or two, that'd be fantastic.
Yeah, perfect. Do you know what I might do? I
Awesome.
might open the window to this room. It's absolutely
No
roasting in
worries.
here. Put this open. There we go. I'm probably gonna be freezing in about 10 minutes after shut it again.
I'm
I
the
don't know what
same.
he's like.
I'm the same. It's a wee bit nippy down here. I end up with old nip stipples. Never
Where are
mind.
you? Where are you based?
I'm down in Kent. I'm outside
Okay.
Maidstone in Kent.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I know.
Whereabouts are you? Don't
Well,
don't give me your address, but
yeah, yeah. I live in London. I live in Hackney,
Mhm.
but my parents are in Bedford, so
Gotcha.
I'm chilling here. I've had a month of not using my prosthetic,
Yeah,
so in that time I've just been chilling in Bedford and getting looked after by my mum. It's quite
yeah.
nice. I feel like I'm 15 again. She's,
Mate, we'll get
yeah,
into that, but wow, I mean, this whole experience looks like. I mean, I don't know you from Adam. I've only known you through social media, but
yeah,
it feels like this whole experience is really like bonded your family and you and your friends as well.
yeah,
It must
massively.
be just an intense thing to go through, and it must certainly focus the mind as to what's important in life. I'm sure we'll get into
Yeah,
that. We can get
there's
into
been,
that.
there's been a lot of positives, but we can talk about that.
Yeah. Right, folks, this is Luke Tarrant. Luke, the way I normally run things on here is I throw the floor open to the guest initially just to basically say who they are, what they're doing, and, effectively why they're here. And then we
Yeah.
dive into the actual chat itself. This week, as usual, we are sponsored by Ultimate Add-ons. Now, Ultimate Add-ons are the premium manufacturer of mobile phone and action camera mounting solutions for motorcycles. With a kit for any bike and a proven track record of creating products that keep your devices safe, secure, and easily accessible, the Ultimate Add-ons product range is ideal for any rider from the commuter to the round-the-world adventurer. Why shell out on an expensive GPS system when you could use your smartphone, keeping it charged and within reach to take photos of your travels at the same time? Ultimate Add-ons waterproof, shockproof and dustproof tough cases are available for all flagship smartphone models and are designed by riders for riders. Find out why Ride Magazine gives Ultimate Add-ons their coveted Best Buy certification. Keep riding this winter with Ultimate Add-ons. It's all about the journey. Now, folks, if you head to ultimateaddons.com, use the code TeapotOne with the number 10, so that's Teapot with ONE, then the number 10, you'll get 10% off their entire range. A massive thank you to Ultimate Add-ons for their continued support.
So, my name's Luke Tarrant. Who am I is a bit of a tough question for me at the moment. So I'm still trying to work it out myself. Before my crash, the reason I'm here on this podcast, the reason people know who I am is because I lost my leg in Colombia when I was riding around the world on my motorbike, and for the last 7-8 months I've been just basically trying to recover and get back to living normal life. And I've developed and accidentally grown this massive online community around me who are sort of supporting me along the way. And I'm now kind of in that limbo period where who am I is a pretty tough question, because if you'd asked me this 8 months ago, I'd have said I'm a motorcycle adventurer. That's what I'm doing. I've spent the last 2 years on my bike. That's my life. But at the moment, I can't ride a bike. I'm not doing any adventures. I'm sat in my mum's house and she's making me green tea every day. And I'm thinking, what am I doing? So my definition of myself is up in the air, and I'm trying to figure it out. But I'd like to say at heart an adventurer, and I'm going to get back to it soon.
I'm sure you will, Paul. I'm sure you will. Yeah, I was going to say your strength of mind, certainly that you portray on social media, it really took me aback. You know, I remember somebody put something around on social media when you had the crash and you were in a hospital in it wasn't Medellin, was it? It was
Medellin, yeah.
Was that you ended up there, didn't you? I think it was the one before that. I think somebody put a post up, and that's what drew me to your account. So I was following it from there, and I mean, from the off, your positivity was phenomenal. But you can see that it's been like I'm sure it'll continue to be that. It's a roller coaster, Because you're going through the mill at the moment for sure. How are things with you just now?
Do you know what they are? The one word I would use to describe the recent month has been frustrating. Just not being able to walk or use my prosthetic has been very tough. But in terms of like my happiness, and it's something I speak about a lot, my happiness hasn't changed. Day to day, I'm still happy within myself. I'm content, which is weird because honestly, if you said to me before my crash, how are you, you're going to lose your leg, crash your motorbike, be stuck in England, doing no traveling, I would have been like, I'm going to be so depressed.
Yeah.
Weirdly, I'm not, and obviously, like you said, the way I portray myself online, and honestly, I get people say to me, "Are you like almost putting on a front?" And at home, you sat super depressed. And people can believe what they want. Genuinely, I am fine, and I'm enjoying life still. I am just a little bit frustrated with my very immediate circumstances. Like when I had my prosthetic leg before, I was overdoing it massively, but I was bombing about, having a great time. And this last month, I've had to really take if you pardon the pun, take my foot off the gas and just chill out a bit, which is not really in my nature. And I found that quite tough. I found that pretty hard.
Yeah. You can sense that for sure, and you certainly, it doesn't appear like you try and hide anything. You seem to be very open and honest and upfront with the people that are following you on the socials. Can we rewind a little bit, and then let's just go to how did you find yourself on the road? Like, how did you get into bikes? What's your story? What's the story that took you to be on a motorbike traveling down through the Americas?
Yeah, so I mean, I obviously looked up your story, and I know you've done a decent stint of motorcycle travel, so I'd be keen to hear your answer back. But the way I actually got into motorbikes in the first place was through traveling. So when I was about, I don't know, 18 or whatever age it was, you started doing little trips. And I always wanted to go and see the world. And I go to like Asia, you do like, the classic 18-year-old go to Thailand, have a great time. And I went there with my mates, and we all got scooters. And I literally was like, "Are you allowed to swear on this podcast, by the way?"
Of course you can, mate. Yeah. It's like we're down the pub. Just like we're doing.
Yeah. I mean, it's something I can't help myself. I swear on TV things that have to bleep me out. But honestly, I got on the scooter and I was like, "This is fucking class. Like, this is the best way to travel. It makes me feel like my soul's full. I'm having such a great time." That was just on like crappy little. I think they're 50cc scooters. It's like you just the first time on two wheels, and came home and just had the bug for it. And then next year we did another trip, same again. Maybe this time we were on 125 scooters, and we just did like bombing around the little rice paddies, going off and seeing all this cool stuff. And then when I came home, I started doing all my licenses and stuff, and it just grew from there. And then once I had my full license, me and some of my mates, because we all got into it about the same time. We all had bikes at home, and we just go off doing little trips on the weekend in England, and then that turned into, why don't we ride from North Vietnam to South Vietnam? Why don't we do like all these other trips? And then the sort of holy grail, if it were of trips for me, has always been the US to Ushuaia, basically ride all the Americas, and that's what I had in my head was going to be the sort of the big one. So I had a job straight out of uni. I did that for a bit, earned some money, and then quit. Did a motorbike trip around Asia. Did some biking through Australia. Came back, flew to Texas, bought a bike in Texas, and then I'd been riding from there down through the Americas for the last few months, and then obviously had this big crash. But I mean, the time before that was, the best times I've ever had in my entire life. And you'll know what it's like riding around on your bike. There is nothing better.
No. And it made me smile there when you said about the first time you jumped on a little 50cc moped and it warms your soul. I was exactly the same, man. I was late to biking. I was 32 when I did my direct access, my CBT, and I'd never ridden a bike before. And it was just, life had got in the way. And then my mum got diagnosed with cancer, and towards the end, she knew I'd always wanted a bike and I'd never done it, and she knew I'd always wanted to travel and I'd never done it. I was old Bill at this point. I was in the Met in London, and
you've been.
Yeah, I was. I left in 2020. I resigned in 2020 just before COVID, actually, so to go full time with motorcycle tours. That was a choice. But
bad time in that.
Well, yeah, but survived, thankfully. So my mum basically, she made me just promise that I would live out my dream to, I'd seen Long Way Round to do my trip around the world. So that she passed away sadly, but I promised her I'd do it. So that was that. So I did my CBT, and I'll never forget riding a 125, just even round the little car park initially, when you first do. And I just remember thinking, this is fucking me. This is a bit of me. This is
so good.
I loved it. Absolutely loved it. And this week, we're also supported by The Influencer Store. The Influencer Store helps you build your brand, big or small, providing you with a solution and apparel. We help you to increase your fan base while supporting you with starting your own influencer clothing line with nothing more than just an idea or design. And there are no hidden costs. For more info, come check us out at theinfluencerstore.co.uk or drop us an email at online@influencerstore.co.uk for more information. Now, if you've ever bought any TeapotOne or any of the Brewtime merch, available over at TeapotOne.com, then you'll have an idea of the sort of quality we're talking about. That's the reason I went with the Influencer Store. They're a British company, family run, and they pride themselves on the quality of the products. I've used some of the online print-on-demand type stuff, and to be honest with you, 2 or 3 washes and T-shirts, they're all out of shape, the colours fade. My stuff with the Influencer Store, this thing's 2 or 3 years old, I wear it constantly, and it's still doing fine. So a massive thank you to Roger and Charlotte and family over at the Influencer Store. What sort of
it makes me laugh. It makes me laugh you say that. You promised your mum you're going to your motorbike trip because I feel bad even saying this. I remember my mum years ago now begging me to not get a motorbike, not ride motorbikes. And I guess this has all been a bit of a told you so moment, but she like the fact your mum was like, yeah, go do motorbike trip. Mine was the total opposite. She hated motorbikes, and she
My
still
mum
does,
was the same.
obviously.
My mum was the
Yeah.
same, mate. My mum was anti-bike my whole life, and it was only because she was near the end with cancer that she was like, look, don't get to my stage where you regret what you've not done in life. You only get one chance.
Yeah.
Live your life. And I have a bit of a tagline, which is live your life, same as this podcast.
Exactly.
And you know, it's quite ironic that it was her that was the one that propelled me down this path that's been, for me, has been life-changing. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like your folks say they want to wrap you in cotton wool, but they know they can't. They know that you have to go and make your own path in life and everything like
I'm
that.
sure we'll get onto this, but I mean, even now, like the first thing I said when I crashed my bike was, I need to get back on one. And even after all of this, my parents have been like, look, we don't want you to ever ride your motorbike ever again, but we accept you will do what makes you happy. And I'm paraphrasing. They didn't say we're cool with that. They said we'll accept it. and I guess that's what good parents do. They get you. They'll guide you and they'll try and get you to do what they want to do to keep you safe. But they know that if there's something that makes you happy and it fulfills you, then you're going to do it anyway. And that's what my parents do.
You've been out, haven't you? You went out with Harvey. Harvey rides bikes, didn't you?
Yeah. Have you met him?
No, I've been trying to get him on the podcast, but not had any chance. No luck so far. He replied to a DM, but I've not. It's gone no further yet. That'd be awesome. I'd love to get him on.
Yeah, I'll drop him a text.
Oh, thank you, man. What was that feeling like?
Well,
being on the back of a bike again.
I mean, I'll be honest. My whole life, I've hated riding pillion.
Yeah,
I don't like being on. I actually don't enjoy being on the back of a bike in general. Normally, like, but for me, I mean, before I left for one of my trips, I had a Harley Sportster, the 1200. I used to bomb about London on it, and I sold it, and I went to drop it off, and my best mate Jack, he's got a massive Sport Glide, like the loudest, most ridiculous thing you've ever heard. He went to pick me up, and I was sat in the back of his bike thinking, I absolutely hate riding pillion, and I never do it. And then obviously now the only way I can get on a bike is to sit on the back of my mates' bikes. So it's like, whilst I used to think this is awful, now I'm like, this is quite fun. The only issue is when I sit on someone's bike, my prosthetic pings off because I've got my knee kind of bends with the like the thing that holds. It's quite hard to explain without showing you prosthetic, but the sleeve that holds it on is quite tight. You just put it on a motorbike peg. The moment you go over a bump, it pings off like a ring. So me and Harvey were riding about. It was the first time I've been back on a bike. We're going over bumps and my leg's just pinging off. So I end up saying to Harvey, I'm like, mate, pull over. I'm just going to take the thing off. Yeah. So so the first time I'm back on a bike, we're bombing around London. I'm holding my prosthetic in my hand. Every time we stop at traffic lights, there's people like, what the hell is going on? This geezer's got a prosthetic leg in his hand. And not only that, as well, Harvey's bike's quite recognisable and he's got cameras all over it and people know who he is. So people are coming, it's Harvey rides bikes. And it's like, why is there a bloke with his leg holding his hand?
Brilliant. Mind you, in London, they're probably happy it's not a blooming machete knife, aren't they? So
yeah, well, we actually, I can't remember if it made its way into any of the videos, but there was a fight right next to us while we were riding around.
Really? Sheesh.
Yeah,
London,
fight. Yeah, exactly.
I don't miss that, I'll tell you. Yeah, one of my best mates, Martin, he's been on the podcast as well. He lost his leg. I can't remember how old Martin was. I think he was in his mid-20s, maybe early 20s. And he lost his leg in a bike crash, just a car pulled out from the side junction as he was riding along, and it was like a traumatic instant amputation. I think it was it above the knee or below the knee? So he has a prosthetic now. He's got an Autobot prosthetic, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's incredible. It's got like a table tennis function. It's got all sorts in it. But he rides a big GS Adventure with his missus on the back, and he comes touring with me all around Europe. And yeah, I mean, he probably puts more miles in than most people I know, to be honest.
Did he have much reservations about getting back on a bike, or was he just straight back on?
I'm smiling because his wife says, and I say, he's dead inside, because he's just one of these blokes that's just, you know what I mean? Like inside, he could be absolutely howling with laughter or absolutely like crying with
Wouldn't know.
tears, but he's just like that. You know, he's just, there's no emotion from him. I don't know, actually. I can't remember. We did chat about stuff like this in the podcast, but it was one of my early ones. So it's probably a good 4 years ago. But he certainly doesn't let it hold him back now. He just cracks on with it. You know, he does like parachute jumps. He does charity. He did like 25-mile charity walk. And like he like walk me, no problem.
If he's got a table tennis function on his leg, that probably means he's got a prosthetic knee, because generally the legs that have electrics in them and settings of that, they're probably above knee.
It is. Yeah. You're right.
It's a whole new world. I'm learning about prosthetics and stuff. There's so much that goes into it, but the technology is pretty amazing. It's about now.
One good thing, Luke, I suppose, is that in the biking world, there's plenty of people in the same boat as you. So there'll be a lot of people to get advice from, I'm sure, if you need it.
Too many. The number of people that have told me their motorbike crash stories since this all happened is, if there's anything that could ever put anyone off a motorbike, it's probably crashing a motorbike, because you just hear everyone else's crash stories. It's just everyone's quick to tell you the person they know that died on a motorbike or whatever.
Yeah. But then if you're the type of person that has like certainly a serious accident like you've had, or, you know, has come off and smashed themselves up and stuff, if you're the type of person to get back on a bike, then these sort of things, they don't put you off, do they? You just deal with it and get on with it and do it again. You're just that type of person.
Mine was when I first crashed, there was no doubt in my mind that I would ever be riding again, finishing my trip, getting straight back on the road. I think the longer time has gone on, and the more time I've spent unable to walk, in a wheelchair, recovery, I think that process of getting back on a bike is still going to happen, but it's just something that I have to really like get done. I can't really explain it now. It's more, there's like the more energy I have to put into recovery, the harder it's going to be comfortable on a bike again. But I know that there's a path to do it. I've actually got a call about this. There's this thing where you go and you do like a course once you've lost your leg, and then you learn to ride your bike, because obviously everything's different. Like you can't change the gear with your foot and all this stuff. So I'm doing that and I'm getting back on the bike, but it's just, there has been a bit of a period to like work through it mentally and, right, do I actually want to get back on the bike? Yes, but how does it look? Am I going to be going off road now? There's a risk of like, you know, falling off, riding through dirt and stuff. Will I have to stick to the road? That's kind of where I'm at now. I'm just working out what my future looks like on a motorbike. But it's I think it's going to be a case of just get back on and see how I feel.
Yeah, and I remember, like, you've got no memory of the actual accident, do you? Is that still the case?
No, I've got slivers of memory of, and I call it memory, but it's more slivers of feeling around the accident. Like I remember somebody being there with me, like in a ditch, but I don't remember what they looked like, who they were. If they were sat next to me now, I'd have no idea. So it's been hard to try and piece it all together, because I've obviously lost my left leg, but then all my injuries were actually on the right hand side of my body. My right leg was broken, my right hand was broken, right collarbone. Everything was smashed up here. So I don't know what made my left leg get smashed off. So it's really, I know even on my bike, you look at my bike and the left hand side is pristine, and then the right hand side is caved in, but my left leg got amputated. So it's a very, very difficult one to work out. And truthfully, I don't think I know. And I'm fine with that, to be honest. I don't need to know.
I think the reason I asked that is going back to what you were saying earlier about, you know, the longer things go on, the more things are in your mind about getting back on a bike and what you have to deal with. I mean, I've had some accidents nowhere near anything like what you've had or experiencing. But the last one I had was I had the typical car pulls out a side junction. I was coming home from night duty, coming through New Cross in South London, and a lady pulled out. She was a nurse, believe it or not, and she pulled out from a side junction right in front of me. I remember looking at her, and she was looking right at me, and I remember thinking, "Oh, she's seen me," and she just pulled out. And like I remember grabbing the brakes and just not being able to stop. I smashed myself up, did my collarbone, all sorts. But I remember when I got back on a bike, it really was hard to get back on a bike and make myself go out, because every time I saw like traffic at a junction, you're just like that all the time. And I'm fine now, but I remember it was a good, I'd say it was probably 6 to 8 months, I think, probably, where I was. And in cars, I was really bad in cars. Like as a passenger, my wife's driving. I'm not saying my wife's a bad driver. She's not. But I would, you know, I'm going for the phantom brake all the time. And she's like, "You're all right, you're all right." So I can kind of sympathise to an extent. It is tough to come back after any kind of accident, for sure. Just a quick shout out to all of you over in the clan on Patreon. Folks, I could not do this without the support of the people over on Patreon in the little community we've got going over there. We call it the clan. I'm not making YouTube millions. In fact, I just about make enough to put in the fuel tank. It's Patreon and my tours, merch, everything like that. That is what allows me to do this full time. We have meetups throughout the year and ride-outs. We do clan-only live streams. And this year, we're even going abroad. Folks, if you think it's something that might tickle your fancy, head to patreon.com/TeapotOne. Check it out and see if it's something you'd like to be involved with. We'd love to have you over there. And lastly, just a massive shout out to all of you who are listening or watching the podcast. If you've liked any of the episodes, given them a thumbs up. If you commented either on the audio podcast or on the video itself. If you shared any of the episodes, it's all a massive, massive help. And it's you who've helped put Brew Time up there in the top 5% of podcasts globally. We are regularly top 3 in the motorcycle world, certainly for the UK. So a massive thank you to all of you. Right, let's get back to it.
Can we? You say that is because, like, when I first came out of hospital, whenever I was in a car or if there was a loud noise or a bang, like I remember I left hospital for the first time after being there for a while. Well, I wasn't actually leaving. I just went out for like 2 hours with my mates and sat in the pub. And it was summer, so we were in the beer garden, and I heard a bus come past and like a child scream. And I like jumped out my skin. I was like, my brain just immediately went to like, oh, the kid's been run over. Yeah. And that kept happening for like maybe a month, where whenever I heard something that could be traumatic, my brain just went to the worst case scenario. If I was in a car, like a cyclist coming past, I'd be like, oh, and then oh wait, what am I on about? They're nowhere near the car. And so I had the same thing, but I don't have it now. It's sort of dissipated.
Yeah.
But so I get
What was the experience like being home, coming out the hospital for the first time? The reason I'm asking is on my trip, things went a wee bit wibble in West Africa. I got taken for a bit by a gang in West Africa, and when I came away, you got
to push over that. I mean,
it's nowhere near as bad as I've just made out. It's nothing. I was held for like hours, you know, not days, weeks or anything. It's just there's a border called Rosso where you go from crikey. So you've got Morocco, Mauritania. So you go from Mauritania down into where's Senegal? Into Senegal. And there's 2 border points, and at that point in 2012 there was one which involved about 80 kilometres of riding through sand and rock to get to the border, or there was another one where there was a tarmac road. Now, I did my trip on a GSX-R 1000, so I thought, I'd already snapped the frame coming through the top part of the Sahara. So I was like,
that's not your typical adventure bike, is it?
just young and stupid. You know, everyone's telling me don't be ridiculous. And the more people that told me don't, I was like, well, I'm going to do it. And you can take any bike. You can take absolutely any bike.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I end up going to this Rosso, but I end up getting taken by a gang there that were working with the old Bill, and they just hold you for a few hours and try and get as much money as they possibly can from you. That's all it was. But I came through that and like was short of quite a bit of money now, because they'd effectively, you know, all the money that I hadn't hidden that was out, they've now got. And I just wasn't in a good place.
Yeah.
What was the point of this conversation? What was it? Oh yeah. And I have a friend of mine who's ex-regiment, ex-SAS. And I remember him saying to me, he was straight on the blower, because I was on social media just saying what had happened. And he got straight on the phone. He was like, you know, I've got some mates that they can be near you, and in the next few hours they can be there. And I was like, no, it's all fine, it's all fine. And I remember him saying to me, he says, when you get back to the UK, he said, you're gonna look at the sky and it's gonna be bluer than it's ever been. You're gonna hear birds, and the birds are gonna be singing clearer and more like crystal clear, with more tune than they've ever had. And I remember thinking, this fucking sass bloke talking about, it's a bit soft.
Yeah.
I came back, I remember getting off the train when I came out of the airport, and it was, the air was clearer, everything was just more vivid. Did you have like a similar experience to that?
Do you know what? I actually think I had the exact opposite experience.
Really?
So, yeah, when you say home, do you mean, because for me, I obviously was in hospital in Colombia for a month, and then they flew me home on an ambulance back to a straight from the air ambulance into a trauma ward, and then I was from the trauma ward straight to another hospital for like specifically amputees. Yeah, I spent a few weeks. So by the time I actually got home, I'd been in hospital for like, I don't remember, 2-3 months, however long it had been, and they let me go home for the first time for a weekend on like weekend release sort of thing. And up to that point, I think I was just been in sort of survival mode. And when I say survival mode, I don't just stay alive, because once I left Colombia, it was clear I wasn't going to. Oh, can you hear me? You good?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. You're with me.
Yeah, sorry. I was saying once I got back, obviously I was in the trauma ward, and it was one goal to the next. It was, don't lose more leg, then get through the sepsis, get through this, get through that. And the first time I went home, it was the first time when everything there was no immediate danger or risk or operation or something happening. And it was probably the moment where I was actually like, oh wait, I've actually lost my leg. And I hadn't really, processed it. And I think not only that, was in the hospital, when I started getting a bit more mobile, they like put me in a wheelchair for the first time. And in the amputee hospital, everything is the most accessible it's ever going to be. You wheel about, they give you your food, you wheel back to your bed, you transfer onto your bed. There's nothing, you want to go to the toilet, you wheel in, it's all like toilets are low and everything's
all geared up for that, isn't it? Yeah.
And then I went back to my flat, and my two best mates were with me staying for the weekend, and I was trying to get through my door of the flat. I'm like, oh, the door's closing on me. I want to go to the toilet, and I'm like, how do I do that? I want to cook my breakfast, and I'm in my wheelchair, and the stove's up here, and I was like, oh wait, no, I actually am now like disabled. I've lost my leg. And it was this moment of realization where everything just sort of like came crashing down on me. Wow. So the birds were not chirping.
They were the least of your worries. So I just didn't even think of that at all. Didn't even think of that side of things. Christ, yeah.
Because when I was in Colombia, I mean, there was not even a minute where I thought, I'm gonna have to learn to walk again. I'm gonna have to get on a prosthetic. It was just like, I need to just survive. And then when I was on the way home, I was thinking, oh, amazing. I'm leaving Colombia. I've got nothing against Colombia. I love the place, love the people there. But I was like, I'm on the way home. This is the end of the ordeal. And then I landed, and I was like, oh fuck, it's actually just the start.
Yeah. Wow.
So that was a bit of a sobering experience. It's probably my hardest point in the whole thing, actually, that going home for the first time.
Yeah.
So
wow. Yeah. Mate, I mean, I could sit here and chat to you for hours about, what got you into the journey and the journey up until that point and everything like that. But I put out on my social media, and I have quite a healthy Patreon following. I put out there to say who the next guest's going to be on the podcast, and then they have the opportunity to leave questions. So what I find is the questions just open up the conversation anyway.
Yeah.
Are you all right with that?
Yeah, I saw you put out a thing on Insta, and I liked a few of the questions people were coming up with.
Awesome. I tend not to pre-read the questions, certainly on Patreon. On Facebook and on Instagram, I'll have a quick look, because sometimes people don't ask questions. They're just like, oh, I can't wait to hear this, all this sort of stuff. I sort of try and mark them so that we can just focus on the actual questions. But there's bound to be duplicates. We'll deal with them as we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Lovely. Right, we'll head across to the clan over on Patreons. It's patreon.com/TeapotOne. First one, Simon Lewis. Evening, gents. Luke, as many have said, such an incredible, inspirational person. As many have said, you're such an incredibly inspirational person. And when you look at pictures before the accident and now, after your recovery, your smile is as big and happy as ever. Which country or place of interest you've visited has amazed you the most on your travels, and what was it that wowed you about it? All the best for the future.
What was that? Was his name Simon? That's such a lovely message. Oh, that's such a heart. These messages, honestly, like, they make me feel quite emotional when I hear them, because sort of, I don't forget, but when I post my updates online, you know, I'm sat at home in my pants, and I ping out this thing. I kind of forget there are people on the other end of it. I've got like, and it's when the people say nice things like that, or I'm in the street and someone's cousin comes and says hello, that it really does bring it home. And I'm like, oh bloody hell, like they're actually real people who are maybe taking something from my story and interacting with it, and it warms my heart. So anyway, but the question was about the country. Which was it surprised me the most, or I enjoyed the most? What was it exactly?
A bit of both, really. You know, which one is the one that's been the biggest surprise in a positive way?
Oh, such a hard question. I love. I love so many countries. A country which I think has everything. I think Mexico has everything. Like, it's got the food, it's got the culture, it's got the vibe, the music, the colours. It's got some amazing motorbiking, whether you're on tarmac or you're off road. Like, I was meant to spend about a month in Mexico, and I was there for maybe 4. Like, I just couldn't. I was there for way too long. Well, not too long. I was there. I could have stayed longer. But my point is, that country was just like, I'd love to go back. There are many places I've been on my journey where I'm like, I have an amazing memory of the place. I feel like I've done it. I had a great time there. I don't need to go back and visit. Whenever I see people in Mexico, pictures of Mexico, music I heard when I was there, I just want to be back there. I think it's such an awesome country.
Yeah, I was the same. I loved Mexico, absolutely loved it, to the extent where when I got married, we ended up having our honeymoon over in on the Baja Peninsula, but we stopped over in Mexico City on the way there, and I met up with people that I'd met on the trip and introduced them to my wife. I love Mexico. It's so good. Everyone tells you don't go there, don't go there. You know, it's like murder capital and all this sort of stuff. I never felt unsafe in Mexico. I don't think ever. Never. I loved it. Never. Loved it.
Never. And I think the other thing that makes Mexico so amazing is I don't know which way did you come? Did you come down from the US, or were you coming up through the Americas?
I was coming up, so I crossed in. I can't remember where I crossed in from. Somewhere in the Central America and up, and then I crossed into Texas.
Okay, yeah. So for me, I just spent the last few weeks riding around the US, and then it was, you cross in. I crossed in where Monterrey is, from Laredo down through Monterrey, and
that was the same one I did.
I actually did it. I did an insane ride. I basically drove from, I can't remember the exact route, but essentially from basically near Austin to Mexico City in a day. It was like the most ridiculous ride. I think it's the longest day I've ever ridden my bike. I was on my bike for hours, but I felt everything just changed. The further south I was going, it was just getting more Mexican. That's the way I could describe it. It went less from feeling like the US, and all of a sudden I'm in Mexico, and I was like, I've arrived. This is where I want to be. And I just fell in love with it. I totally fell in love with it.
I have a big regret from. I don't like to say I've got regrets in life because life has a path for you, and that path, it's brought me to where I am now. So I don't regret anything that's happened. But by the time I got to Chile, I flew from Australia to Chile, and my aim was to go down to Ushuaia and then from Ushuaia up to Dead Horse and do all that. But I was so short of cash by the time I got to Chile that I was just like, and I was kind of done. I'd had like a year and a half on the road, and I was just like, I'm ready for a bit of, I don't know, like familiarity. You know what I mean? So I just did the old head down, arse up, and I think I went through the Americas in about 6 weeks, and I really regret doing that. I wish I'd spent longer in the Americas, but I won't.
Yeah, but you've still got time to go and do it again. Like, do
absolutely.
that stuff again. There's so much to see. Like, people used to say to me, "Oh, what's your plan? Like, what's your plan? Where are you going to be on this date or this time?" And I used to be like, clue, because like I said, I didn't plan on being in Mexico that long. I went when I went to Belize. There's a place called K Kulka, or the Key Kulka, depends on the locals pronounce it differently. But I was meant to be there for like 2 days, and I ended up there a whole month because I just made friends with all the locals. Every day I would just go out fishing, and like I chilled with them and lived in their houses and went on their boats, and I like became a local for a month, and I was like, this is amazing. And I planned to be there for 2 days. So I never had a real plan. I like just travel. Some days I'd crunch out miles if it was stuff I wasn't interested in. I was nowhere cool, and then I'd stop and just be like, "Oh, right, this is me for 2 weeks. I'll stay here for a bit." It's quite the way
How did you find the places? Did you have any plan with the route, or did you just follow your nose and see where it took you?
Normally just word of mouth. Like, you obviously have, you must have been in them as well, like all the ADV biker groups where people are posting. They're like,
we'd only just got Facebook. Facebook hadn't been around that long.
Yeah, of course.
So when I was doing it, it was still a forum. It was a Horizons Unlimited forum.
I'm in that. Yeah, I mean, I actually used that because they've still got the Facebook. They still got the Facebook group. I'm in that, and I spoke to people in there. I spoke to people in the forums, because you can get, where possible, I'd like to try and avoid tarmac. So if we can go and do a little GPX route that will take you through a nice bit of gravel or dirt, and sometimes you get there and it's like, this is not a fucking route. This is absolutely impossible to drive through, and then you have to go. But that's kind of the way I did it, and I can tell you obviously about my mate Jack later, because he played quite a big part in all this. Yeah. When Jack came out a few months down the line, he's really good as getting routes, and we kind of had our roles in the relationship, but his was like, and he found some class routes for us through like El Salvador and Guatemala and stuff.
Were you a big off-roader before you went?
Not really, no. I've said not really. I've done a bit, but like it became, when I first got to the US, I basically was just on tarmac driving through like the national parks and Big Bend, these amazing roads, and sometimes these road just goes on forever and like twisting through, and then once I got the further south I got, the more off-road I got, and I very quickly changed my tires from like 50/50s to 80/20s on the road, and then I'd just swap, and my tires would always change depending on the sort of like terrain I was planning on riding on. But I really, really love just being out in the mountains off road. Did you do? I mean, I guess with your bike, you probably stayed mainly on the road.
It was mostly solid, like tarmac if possible. But sometimes there is no option. Like bits of Russia, the main road, like their motorway, where there was like an 80-kilometer stretch of nothing. It's just they haven't built the road yet, or they've stripped the road away, and off you go. So you've got sand and rocks to get through. Places like Laos, when I was going down through Laos, there's some parts of that where, again, they hadn't. It showed on Google Maps that it was a road, so I went, and they hadn't built the road yet, so it was like, right. But they're what make the adventure. That's, for me, they're the bits that I remember the most.
That's the best bit.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
Almost like when things go wrong, it makes. I've got so many, all the best stories I've got from traveling of when it's been when things have gone wrong.
Mhm.
And I kind of think I've taken that mindset into this situation here, where it's like something's gone very wrong. Clearly, I've not got a leg, but actually, we wouldn't be sat here having this conversation if it hadn't happened. There's so much other stuff I'm doing now, which is come as a result of it. And like, I think that's just if the way you approach traveling and life, you're gonna have a good time. It's just,
Look, the older I get, right, I used to be a very logical and not analytical, but I was a very black and white person. Probably why I ended up in the old bill, because there's the right way, and then there's the wrong way, and everything's black and white. It's just that's it. It's all defined. Life's not like that, man, is it? And the older I get, the more I'm kind of becoming a bit of a hippie, in that
yeah.
you have these experiences in life, whether they're positive or negative, whether they're fun or whether they're tragic, whatever it is. But life just has a habit of throwing things your way, which they're coming your way whether you like it or not. And then it's just, how do you deal with that when it comes your way? And it seems to just take you down whatever path it is that you're supposed to be going down. It's nuts. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've got a real view now. I had it before, but I try not to stress too much about anything, because you just if I'd spent my whole trip worrying about what I was going to do when I got home, it would have been a total waste of time, because now that all this has happened, and like I'm on a completely different path, and and without sounding too much like a hippie, like you say, I almost feel like it's the path I'm on, and it was meant to happen. Even if I've spoken about it a few times, but I've got literally 2 weeks before my crash, I was in Colombia. No idea what possessed me to get a Grim Reaper tattooed on my leg, facing the other leg with like a bloody sword, laughing. So I've got a tattoo which I'd done literally 2 weeks before the crash in Colombia, that was still healing when I was in hospital, of a Grim Reaper with a bloody sword, which is looking at my left leg, which now is chopped off, with blood all over the sword. What's that about?
that must have been some good shit you were on when you did that.
Yeah. What? Why did I get that? And now my mate Jack was like, "Oh, you bought it on yourself because you got a Grim Reaper." So I'm like, "Oh, shut up, mate! You've got a Grim Reaper tattooed on your chest." But it's the same, isn't it? I mean, how? I don't know.
Did you say something like in one of your reels? Did you say when you were in hospital, you did you go into a coma or something? Is that right?
I had sepsis. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had sepsis. All my organs started like shutting down. I had sepsis. I was on a ventilator. I was in not a coma, but I was in a sedated state when the machine was doing the breathing for me.
Yeah. You said something about you've literally been to the other side or been to the other world. What's that all about? I'm into all this stuff now, man. I really am.
Yeah. I obviously came back round from what I would describe as the underworld. That's what I'm remembering. So I was so off my face on like morphine and all these pain drugs, and they were obviously like keeping me sedated because I was in and out of surgery and this. And if I tried to say something to my parents, I don't remember this, but my parents obviously told me once they arrived, if I tried to say something like, "Oh, pass me that thing," I would just go, like I couldn't get anything out past the first syllable. And then it developed from that into, I would like just kind of point, like I was really irritated, but I wouldn't. Apparently my mum like wrote the alphabet out and stuff, and I was just pointing. I was like pointing at the wall with no idea what was going on. But I remember that period weirdly well. But it's like I was having conversations with people, and they were just not understanding me, and I'm like, why do you not understand what I'm saying? But what I was really doing was just going. I wasn't speaking, and I kind of described it as the underworld because it was madness. I was complete madness. It got to the point where once I came out of that, and they were trying to give me all these medications, I point blank refused morphine, all the pain meds, which ended up going against me because I was in insane amounts of pain. But like, I just couldn't bear being that far from my brain. It really hard.
Wow.
It was bizarre though.
Right, let's rewind. Let's go back to questions.
Yeah.
Sorry, Simon. Thank you very much for your question, mate. Next one, Two Bob Rocket. Good evening, gents. What a fantastic story, Luke. I had a friend who now sadly I had a friend who's now sadly passed, and he had a serious car accident when he was 21, which left him paralysed. There was little support or networking for some 47 years ago. My question for Luke is, how has the support been for you, and have you considered an adventure with other amputees?
That's a great question. I mean, my support network has been as good as it could ever be. And from my immediate support network to my medical support network to my wider internet community that surround me now, like going through those three, my friends and family, there's not a single person I could think of that has let me down. Everyone's been there. Everyone's been amazing. I felt loved, and that's been great. The medical staff, again, they've all been amazing. The thing that's just you never expect is this like mad internet community that's kind of rallied around me. And this last month, like I said, has been quite tough, and I've been frustrated to the point where I'm even like, why am I uploading these videos online? Because there was some other stuff where they kept, I was uploading things to Instagram, and they just delete my voice off it, and I was like, right, what's the point of putting these videos up? And I put something alluding to that on my story, and I got, without exaggerating, tens of thousands of messages of like, do not stop posting your videos. And I was like, oh wow, it's actually like, you guys actually care about me. It's quite a sobering thing. And I mean, my support network's been amazing, and I'm aware that for other people, they might not have be lucky to have friends, family, and I mean, obviously, most people don't have this whole internet network of strangers that are behind them. But I just feel blessed and lucky that I have got that, and I'm just grateful for it.
What's that been like to have this? Because you've got hundreds of thousands of followers now, haven't you?
Yeah, it's rocketed. It's gone a bit mad.
What's that like to have to all of a sudden have that level of exposure to it? Because I mean, I consider I've got a reasonably healthy following, like 30 odd thousand on Instagram and that. But that's taken me 14 years to build, across various platforms. What's it like to be in your situation in under a year to have effectively just rocketed up there to being one of the most prominent?
I mean, like it's eight. I can't remember exactly when my crash was. It was like 7.5, 8 months ago, whenever it was. I had maybe 1,000 Instagram followers. I've never been a social media person. I've always had quite negative views of social media. I'm just like, everyone's posting stuff to make themselves look amazing. They've got a great life, and then everyone sees it, and then they're all depressed. Wasn't my original view of it. Like, if you go back enough far into my videos now, there's like, I've got probably 2 videos of me traveling from 2.
I have, I've gone right to the start,
Yeah, I've got like 2 videos from traveling for like 2 years. I did not post video. It wasn't a thing. And then I crashed, and this honestly completely accidentally happened. And now I've got like, hundreds of thousands of people online. But when you say, how does it feel? When I'm just sat here at home with my parents, I look at it, it's just a number, isn't it? It's not a thing. It's when I go get the tube, and I'm like, it happens more than other days sometimes, but I'll get off the tube and I'm going to the train, and in the 10 minutes from the tube to the train, I might have like 6 people come up and be like, mate, I've seen you on Instagram. And awesome. I'm like, this is wild. It's just mental. I always in life, whenever you speak to someone, you want to hear about their life and this and that. And the time I'm thinking about, the train time, I missed my train because I was just chatting away to people. I was like, what are you up to? And they're like, it doesn't matter what I'm up to. I'm asking. I just forget that they actually know things about what I've been doing.
People come up to you though, don't they? Though, but they know you because like they watch your content, so it's like they know loads about you, especially if you share everything with them. They know all about you. But I have it where, not to the same extent, but people come up and they don't even introduce themselves, like tell me their name, and they just start chatting away to you, don't they? And it's just like, great, but what's your name? Can I at least get your name so I know who you are?
Oh man, I all the time, but I like it though. no part of me finds it in any way annoying. I absolutely love it because it makes me feel like, again, another positive from this situation. It's just like I'm connecting with tons of people that I don't know, and that can't ever be a bad thing. If they're following me and they're watching my videos, they must be taking something from it, hopefully.
100%.
And I'm
100%.
like, great, I'll keep posting for as long as people are interested. And when everyone goes, right, we've had enough, mate, we get it, you've lost a leg, I'll fucking delete my Instagram.
The thing is you said this earlier, like, so social media can be really negative. I think social media can be incredibly damaging towards people, especially their mental health. But it can also be the best thing out there. You know, social media can be the thing that opens up the world to people. You know, social media can be that lifeline for some people. And when you when you've got a positive influence on people's lives, like you genuinely do, I mean, that's a fantastic thing. And, you know, awesome that you're sharing the way you're sharing, and, you know, you appreciate the impact you're having on other people's lives, because you will be making a difference. You'll be making a difference to thousands of people out there for sure.
Oh, I appreciate that. I still don't quite believe you when you say that, or anyone when I say it, but I appreciate that people think that.
Mate, 100%. 100%, because you're obviously you're very strong physically. You can see that. You're obviously very strong mentally as well, and you've got a nice support crew around you with your family and friends. There'll be other people out there who maybe don't have that, or they're not as strong mentally or physically as you are. And, you know, you're dealing with your demons and the ups and downs of this journey, but they might not be, you know, and to see you, who they can associate themselves with, because, you know, maybe they're an amputee as well, or they've whatever's gone on in their life, and they can see you and being in the mindset and the positive frame that you have, and also seeing you having your down days as well, where you're struggling with a few things. When they see that, people are just like, oh, okay, so it's not just me, or they've been through this. They know what this is like, and they're getting through it. So you're going to be helping people.
I appreciate that. I know you've probably got a ton more questions, but just on that, like, a part of me always thinks at the start that, you know, there's always someone worse than you. Like, even me now, I'm like, oh, I at least don't have that level of injury. There'll be tons of people, I think, who will be like broken up with their girlfriend, or they've had a shit day at work and they're feeling sorry for themselves and they don't want to go to the gym. And these people have told me this is why I'm saying it. And then they'll be like, they'll look at the bloke who's got one leg, who just smashed his leg off and he's gone to the gym, and they're like, oh, well, I have to then.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of what I hope it does.
Mate, it does it to me, because right behind the screen I've got a rowing machine, and which I've every year, the start of every year, I'm like, right, I'm going to get on the rower. And I manage till like April, May. And then the touring season kicks in and I'm away. And then the second I stop rowing, that's it. It's the next January before I get back on the thing. But I see you, and you're out and about and you're doing thing, and you're a big gym guy as well, aren't you? And I also know that you're a rower as well. So I've seen you with one leg on the bloody rower, and I'm like, I've got to put my fat ass on that rowing machine. Absolutely. Sorry, Two Bob was saying an adventure with other amputees. Are you thinking about anything like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the main things I'm trying to get sorted right now is my charity. I'm trying to start a charity, and I didn't realize how hard it was to get it off the ground, but I've got a couple of pillars of the charity I want to focus on. And one part is, I know how hard it is to not have a prosthetic leg, and how hard it is when you can't walk. And across the world, there's, you know, if you lost a leg in many countries, you're never getting a prosthetic, especially one that's any good. So I'd like to raise a load of money and help people in countries where there's no access to prosthetics get a prosthetic. That's one part of it. And the other part of it is not necessarily just amputees, but people who have had either traumatic injuries or traumatic things happen in their life. It doesn't have to be even a physical injury, who could benefit from getting out, doing some adventures. And I've got my friend Ed Jackson, I'm not sure you've ever heard of him, has a very similar charity where they just get people out in nature doing adventures and cool things, and it takes them out of their immediate space and the headspace, gives them a bit of time to figure things out and realize there's actually some good in the world, and it's one of the many things I want to get going. I mean, I think about it all the time. That and the getting over to countries and helping people with their prosthetics, because I think if I'm going to use my Instagram platform or all that to do anything, it should be something good. Like I get at the moment, tons of companies daily like, oh, do you want to promote this thing? And I've done like a couple of small things with companies that I really resonate with, if they're like wellness and health and whatever. But I turn 99% of it down because I want to use my platform when I actually come to trying to promote something, to promote my charity. So that's what I've got as my goal, my North Star, if you will.
Yeah, got you. Good on you. Good on you. Well, when you get all that going, mate, if I can ever help with anything, please let me know.
I'd appreciate that massively. When I get it, at the moment, I'm having to selfishly focus on my own recovery and learn to walk again.
Yeah, you bastard. God.
Yeah, I know. But when I've got that sorted, and I can, at the moment, I spend my life going to hospital appointments. When I have a bit more time and get it all sorted out, I'm going to properly focus on that and get it off the ground. And I'll be knocking at the door, mate, to try and help me raise some money.
Mate, I'll do whatever I can. No problems at all. Just let me know. Cheers for that one too, Bob. Next one, half man, half pirate. This is my mate Martin, who lost his leg. That's his channel, half man, half pirate. He's got a YouTube channel. Evening each. I hope your residual limb issues are getting sorted, Luke. I feel naked if I don't wear my leg. Hopefully Bruce isn't inappropriately rubbing himself now. Luke, what's the one thing that has surprised you most about being an amputee? Good or not so good?
I think when I first lost my leg, I said to my mates and my parents, "It's going to be all right. I'll just whack a prosthetic on." Like you see the lads in the Paralympics sprinting around the track with a prosthetic on. It can't be that hard, and it is hard, and it really takes a lot of time to get a prosthetic that fits and works and doesn't tear your skin up and cause you use the official term residual limb. I'll just call it my stump to flare up and swell. So honestly, the hardest part and the most surprising part has been getting up on the prosthetic. I didn't realise it was going to be this difficult at all. I completely underestimated it. And I've got so much respect for people who do go and run marathons and, like your mate, go and do big hikes and walks on it, because for me now, walking to the local shop, I'll be celebrating. Honestly, it's crazy how hard it is.
Yeah, but look, it's not even a year since you lost your leg, mate. You know what I mean? You're talking about Olympics already. Do you know what I mean? You're that type of bloke, aren't you? You can tell that you're the type of bloke sets himself a challenge and you want it now. It's happening now. Yeah,
that can be to my detriment, because I think that's half the reason I'm in a wheelchair right now, because I tried to do too much on my first prosthetic and just completely ruined my leg. But there we go.
It takes a bit of time. Just patience, isn't it? It's a life lesson now, isn't it? It's the universe going, slow things down. It's just patience. Precisely. Take patience.
Learn the lesson. Lesson learned.
Martin also says, Bruce, you've got 2 weeks off with Nikki, that's my wife. Money no object. Where do you go and how do you get there? All right, I don't take this the wrong way, but if I'm going on the bike, I'm not taking my wife. Just no way. She's not coming with me if we're going by bike. If it's nothing to do with a bike, Nikki and I, we were just doing road trips of the States before COVID came. My wife used to live in America. She was a nanny, so she's lived over there in various different places in Australia and New Zealand and stuff. And I love the States, so we were basically just flying in, on the east, we would just fly into New York and then hire a big truck and then just hit the road for, say, 2 weeks with no plan other than let's just go, and we just find places to stay each day and follow our nose, basically. And we're both like that. So we loved that. We did all up in the Northeast, and then we got as far down as Washington, D.C. So I would love to continue that. I would love to sort of do that all across the States. I love the States. It's just such a varied country with amazing people and such varied people over there.
There's actually a lot of culture shock in the States. That was my big. You don't realize you have your idea of what America's like from film, but you get into some parts of the US where you feel like you're in a different country and all you've done is crossed into a different state. But you're saying you wouldn't take your wife on the bike. So if she's not coming, where's next on the bike? Where do you want to go on the bike?
Oh, I mean, there's loads of places that I didn't do on the world trip that I really wanted to do. Like places like Mongolia. I was
it's some amazing riding there.
I was all set to go in, but then I snapped the subframe on the Gixxer for the fourth time, crossing a bit of Russia. Well, I snapped it for the third time in the first half of Russia, got that fixed, just welded up somewhere, and then it snapped about 80k from the border crossing into Mongolia. So I was just like, well, there's not much road in Mongolia, so it's probably not a good idea to take a sports bike with a snap frame. So I'd made the decision not to do it.
On that bike. That's actually mental.
Mate, there's people done it before me. There's a Welsh guy, Nick Sanders. He's done it on R1s, Fireblades, Triumphs. There's a Dutch guy, Jacques Lucassen. He did it on an R1 back in '95, and he did. Yeah. I mean, he was on the road for almost 5 years, man. He nearly did 500,000 kilometers. He's literally, back in the 90s, went through the Congo with the mud up to the handlebars, and he's doing it in a one-piece leather suit on an R1.
That is absolutely unhinged.
Phenomenal.
I mean, I rate it. It's amazing, but it's absolutely unhinged. I've seen there's a guy doing a, I don't know if he's doing a full round the world trip or just a stint. I saw he was doing the Road of Bones on a chopper, which was, I don't know if you've seen it. I can't remember his name. But it's, wow.
There's folk done it on everything you can think of. Especially when you get yourself into that hub, into Horizons Unlimited, there's people done it on Goldwings. There's people done it on 50cc mopeds. There's my mates, the sidecar guys. They did it on a 125cc sidecar unit that they built themselves, and they did that trip. They're a cracking bunch of lads. Do you know them? Matt and Reese.
What are they called?
The sidecar guys.
I'll write that down. Put it on my phone. Sorry,
they're on Insta and stuff. They have their own business now up in Morpeth, up in the north of England. That'd be a good thing for you. They need to adapt it, wouldn't they? Because it's your left leg, isn't it, for gears?
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can go up there and you can take these Urals. They've got a fleet of Urals, and they take you out to do like a road tour, but then you'll do off-road as well. And these Urals are fucking amazing, mate. It's an awesome giggle. But yeah, check them out, the sidecar guys.
Yeah, definitely.
So yeah, I definitely want to do Mongolia. I'd love to go there. I want to go back and finish Africa because it beat me. And I want to go back and do that. And then I want to go up to Dead Horse as well because I got as far as just on the border of the Yukon in Canada, and then I ran out of time. I hit a really bad weather front crossing the Great Plains in Canada, so it dropped to like minus 38. So it was taking me, I could ride for 10 minutes and then I was having to stop and put my hands on the exhaust to it was brutal. So yeah, that beat me, and I want to go back and finish all that. But
there's always more. There's going to always be more to experience.
Absolutely.
No, you never do.
What about you then? What about you? Obviously, you want to go back and finish Ushuaia.
Yes, I need that. That's not even a want. That's I have to go and do that. I have to complete that at some point. In the immediate term, I'm trying to plan in small trips that I can do that don't require me being away. I'd much rather, if I could, I'd immediately get back on the road now and be away for as long as I can. But I have to go right now. I can't do any trips because I'm in hospital literally every day.
Yeah,
ups and downs and that. In 2 months' time, I'm hoping it'll be settled down. I've got a trip. I'm going to China. I've tried to book some trips into places where I probably wouldn't do it on a bike as part of a big bike trip. So I'm just going to go in, do like 2-3 weeks, and leave again and explore just on foot.
In 2 months' time.
So I'm going. What month are we in? The end of. I'm going at the start. I'm going start of April. So
Jesus, you don't hang about, do you?
No, I was meant to be going. I was meant to go away next week, and I had to pull out of it.
Jesus.
I've done one trip though. I did one trip. Me and my mate Doug went to Switzerland for like 3 days. But he won that in like basically a
Yeah.
raffle type. So I
Yeah.
just did that. It wasn't very demanding. I did it mainly in my wheelchair. But yeah, China I've got planned. I've got a couple of other little cool things, but it really just depends on what my leg does, to be honest.
Yeah.
It might be that
course.
it's down again and in 2 months I'm walking no problem, or it might be I'm stuck in this wheelchair still. So I have to just play it by ear, to be honest.
Luke, remember this lesson, this life lesson, mate. Patience, patience. It'll pay dividends in the future.
It's not a quality I possess in abundance. I'm horribly impatient. It's really not great.
Yeah, I get you. I understand.
Yeah, it's tough.
Cheers for that one, Martin. Next one, Ralph. Hiya, hope you're both well. Question to the both of you. Did or do you have a good luck charm or a talisman when riding your bike? For example, a so-called gremlin bell, a certain coin, or perhaps a specific gift of a spouse. And what are your thoughts of it? All the best in the Netherlands, Ralph.
I'll let you go first.
Do you know, I don't at all. No. Is there anything? There's nothing I always carry when I'm out on a bike, other than I've always got my phone, but that's just life. I always have my phone. No, I'm not superstitious with a bike or anything like that.
Now you've become a bit of a hippie. You might have to get some. You might have to get yourself a little thing that you can carry around.
Well,
I had a bike in London. I had a Yamaha XSR 700. I don't know if you've seen that. It's I loved it. It's perfect for London. It's an absolute wheelie machine as well. It's just getting around London. It was wicked. And one of my best mates, Tim, bought me a gremlin bell. He was living in South Africa, and he came back. He bought me and Jack. He bought us both a gremlin bell, and I put it on my bike. And within about 2 days, my bike had been nicked.
Oh.
So it wasn't the best good luck charm I've ever had. But to be fair, they ended up crashing it. So maybe the gremlin bell did some damage to them. I'm not sure.
Yeah, exactly,
but yeah. I had a gremlin bell, but it didn't ward off the criminals. But maybe some bad omen. I'm not sure.
Not much does in London, mate. Not much does.
Yeah, since then I've not had a good luck charm. Maybe I need a new one. Maybe that's probably what I'm wrong.
Right, cheers to that, Ralph. Next one, Debbie Clegg. Hiya, I visited Venezuela a long time ago. What a place it was then. I trekked the jungle on one of those experience tours. I was terrified and fascinated all in the same instance. I'll get straight to the root here, Mr. Luke T. Have you ever wondered how much your travels to South America and other places would have changed your outlook on life had the collision not occurred? I think it's changed your outlook on life anyway, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, so Venezuela actually is an interesting one that's been brought up, because when did she say she went? It was quite a while ago.
I would imagine it was a wee while ago. Yeah.
Yeah, Venezuela is not a visited country now, and to the point where if you visit, like, you can't even get travel insurance to go. The government recommends you don't go. You tell anyone in England or Colombia on the other side of the border you want to go to Venezuela, and they all say, do not go to Venezuela. But the trouble is, when that was happening, every person that said, oh, you can't visit Venezuela, it made me really want to go.
Yeah.
So I did, and I drove to the border of. Did you do Venezuela when you?
No,
when you
I didn't
drove?
do Venezuela. No.
And like, I got to the border, and the guards were literally like, why are you here? Like, what's going on? They were just confused why a tourist or a person wanted to enter.
Yeah.
Get in, start driving through, stop off to get like a little arepa or something. And I was with Jack, my mate Jack at this point. We were like mobbed by people who were just like, what are you doing here? And they hadn't seen a tourist for years.
Wow.
I mean, honestly, years. And everywhere we stopped, there would be a crowd of like 15 lads who would just run over and want to hear why we were there, why we were visiting. Yeah. By that point, my Spanish was good enough to actually chat as well. And it's probably Like it's a sad place to visit in that you speak to people and you hear about how they used to live and how they live now. And like, I mean, even when I was driving through Mexico, I saw thousands of Venezuelans walking to the US. There's like big caravans of people. They've got a ton of like issues in the country, but just as far as like a real traveling experience, it was as far off the tourist trail you could get, and you really do just meet normal people who want to like share what's going on in their lives with you. And
Yeah.
man, that I mean, it's quite funny she asked what experiences would have changed me from traveling, because that's the sort of thing where I was like, this is just sad. And man, it can't even put it into words. I'm remembering a specific moment where I was in a pub and it was completely empty. There was the guy who ran the pub and his mate, and it was a massive venue. And he was saying that like years ago, every single Friday, Saturday, there'd be like 300 people in this venue. And in that moment, it was him and his mate, and they were drinking out of like a bottle of alcohol, out like a flask sort of thing. And me and Jack were just buying them beers, and they were like, "This is the most money they've earned in weeks," because it was just me and Jack in the pub. And I couldn't, I can't really get my head around how different their lives are from when they were not living in that political instability. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember on the big trip, and you would get to countries where everyone's telling you don't go, and the Foreign and Commonwealth Office are saying don't go, and you're not going to get any backup and all this. But sometimes sometimes you've got no real option. You could fly over it, but sometimes it all costs money, doesn't it? And sometimes talking with other travellers, particularly on the Horizons Unlimited, which was all there was really then, the hub forum, you chat to people and say, has anyone been through El Salvador recently? And you'd get people like, yeah, I came through it last week, absolutely fine. And yet, on the news at the time, El Salvador was the murder capital of the world, and it was just do not go in there, you will die. It's one of the most friendly places I think I went through in Central America. Amazing place. Yeah. Crazy though, isn't it? Like, that was something that really left a lasting impression on me from the trip. Was like before I went, I was a very untrusting person. I'd spent 10, 12 years in the old Bill by this point, and it does, because just of the very nature of that job. Most, it's not like Dixon and Dock Green out there when you're working in London. It's like you kind of very rarely deal with a genuine victim. The people that you deal with, they've just been stabbed by another gang, but an hour before they were stabbing somebody else. So it's it's that sort of world that you're dealing with, where people are always lying to you. They're always on the defensive. You're never quite sure, A, are you going to get any sort of truth to them? B, you're always watching your back. C, you're worried, are the public going to do me here? What's the media going to say about anything that you get involved with? So you do put massive guards up all over the place. But when you're traveling, you rely on the kindness and generosity of strangers, don't you? Like, you literally have those experiences where you're at a petrol station filling up with fuel and someone will come over to you. I had it in so many different countries. People come over and they don't speak English and you don't speak whatever language they speak, but they'll be like, they'll point at your number plate when, where's this from? So I had a map on the back of my lid and I could point, so, from UK, and they'd go, oh, English. And I'd be like, no, Scottish. The difference that made when I went, no, not English, Scottish. They'd be like, Scotia! And then they'd be like, where are you sleeping? So you point them a tent and point to a field. And I'm like, no. Come.
Yeah,
you're in someone's house, aren't you? And they're putting you up and feeding you. And it just changed my outlook on people massively. That was a big lasting thing for me.
Yeah, I think you've articulated much better what I was trying to say. You just end up in these situations where you've got an expectation of a place, and I'm not going to say for a minute like Venezuela's kitted out and amazing and high tech, because it's not. It's lacking a lot of stuff that people there need. But the thing that makes it is the people. It's the people there and the experiences you have and the chats you have, and I just miss it, man. Like I don't miss having my leg or anything like that. I miss what I can't do because I've not got it. I miss having all those experiences, and you go to bed and at the end of the day, and you're like, what a day that was. I've had so much just enjoyment and fulfillment from what I've done, and I miss it so much.
Luke, that's not over, mate. That's not over. You can't do it just now. But again, patience. It's on your path. You have to deal with this now. But that'll be back. You'll figure out a way where you'll be back in those situations, and you'll be doing that again. But I've got zero doubt about that. You will continue this journey, whatever's ahead of you. You'll continue it, and you'll have all those experiences again. 100%. 100%.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, you are. You can tell you are. It's a tough time at the moment, isn't it? You can see. I've got no. I've never been through what you're going through, so I can't say I know what you're going through because I don't. But it's a tough time. You will get over this. You'll get through it. You'll adapt.
I have faith.
Yeah, you will. You will. Debbie also asks about bucket list places. Well, we covered that in the last one. So thanks very much, Debbie. Cheers for that one. Hope you're both well, you and Ian. Next one, Andy. Evening, gents. Happy New Year to you both. Happy New Year to you too, Andy. Couple of questions, if I may. Luke, your story, both pre and post accident, is inspiring. So I ask, what do you find inspiring, and how do you ensure you have enough time and energy for yourself? Oh, good question.
It's a great question, and it's unbelievably good timing because I think I'll probably post it on Sunday. But I spent about an hour today. When I make my videos, I write almost like a journal, and then I turn it into video. So I then just read out whatever I've written down and put clips with it. And I actually decided today, it's mad this question's come up because my video I'm gonna make is I started off with a lot of people say the way I've dealt with losing my leg is inspiring, but I want to tell you about some things that I find inspiring. And I was going in to talk about a guy I've met recently, and I've been lucky enough to spend time with a chap called Ed Jackson, he was a professional rugby player and dove headfirst into a swimming pool at the same time. Broke his neck, paralysed from basically shoulders down, and then managed to basically defy the odds, start walking again. And now he's climbing mountains. He's obviously still injured. He's still got his spinal cord injury, but he completely defied the odds. And whenever I look at Ed's story and read about what Ed's been up to, it just fills me with this sense of, right, he's managed to do it. He's managed to go out and do this thing despite his injury. And despite what the doctors said, I'm going to be able to do the same thing. And I think just seeing people who have come before me with bad things happen and then how they get through it, that has been what I've kind of relied on. And there are plenty of people, well-known people on the internet. Amputees, a girl called Millie Pickles is now one of our very good friends. She ran the London Marathon with one leg. You probably have Billy Munger. He did an Ironman. He's lost both his legs. Jeez. So I look at other people who have been through mad injuries, whether it's similar or different, and defied the odds and gone and done crazy things. Because I'm obviously too early on to go out and impress anyone doing a marathon, but I'd like to get back there. I'd like to get back there. And
save that for next year, mate. Next year.
Yeah, I'll have to do it crawling probably.
Have you ever heard of Joey Evans?
I feel like I've heard the name.
He's a South African guy. Just talking about inspiring people. I've had him on this podcast. This is not a shout for you. Go and watch some more of my other podcast. But there's a bloke called Joey Evans, South African guy, and he was an off-road professional motorcyclist, and he was training. He'd always wanted to enter the Dakar Rally, so he was training for that, and he had a bike accident when he was off. I think he hit a camel or something. He came off the bike anyway and snapped. Basically snapped. I think he snapped his spine. So he's in hospital and he's basically being told you're not going to walk again. So he made that decision in the hospital bed, thinking that he's never ever being told that he'll never walk again. He was like, no, fuck that. Not only am I going to walk again, I'm going to go for the Dakar. And he did. He managed to teach himself how to walk again. Then he got back on a bike, had another couple of accidents, but he eventually, I think 4 years later, that was it. He was in and he competed in the Dakar. And it's phenomenal. He's written a book called Para to Dakar. I've got a copy of the book that I can send you, like a PDF version. But I urge you, if you're into that type of
All
thing,
right, that's getting read. Let's add that to the list. What's it called?
get the audio book, mate. Para, Para, to Dakar, Dakar. But get the
Yeah,
audio book so you can listen to it, and then you can do it in the gym. You can do it all over the place. It's
that is.
amazing. What a
That
story!
sounds amazing. The thing with spinal injuries is, I again didn't know this till recently, is obviously you have your. This is just through speaking to Ed. You have your level of your injury, which will
Yeah,
dictate how much function you're going to get back, and they make a fairly early decision on whether your goal is to get into a wheelchair or your goal is to get walking or whatever it is, based on like how high up your injury is.
Mhm.
Ed, for example, they said to him, "You won't ever walk again. Like you'll never walk again." And then one day, his toe twitched a little bit when he was in
Yeah,
hospital,
yeah,
and they said, "Look, don't get your hopes up. Your toe might twitch. Doesn't mean you're going to be walking again." And he slowly got a little bit of movement back in his legs. And the way, apparently, I mean, I'm just going off what he's told me, but the way it works with spinal cord injuries, if you then hammer the physio, hammer the rehab early on, that is the best chance you've got of ever firing those
yeah,
muscles and pathways up again. If you're super motivated early on and you get a bit of movement, it actually does completely change your diagnosis.
yeah,
So like your mate, or Ed or someone like that who's super motivated to walk and do all the things they want again. Like I've seen videos of Ed bench pressing a broom in his hospital bed just because he got a bit of movement back in his arms, and
yeah,
that actually makes the world of difference.
yeah.
It's mad. It's mad.
So it sounds a very similar story to Joey. I think Joey was the same in that he's been told he'll never walk again, and yet
Yeah,
I think he had that. He just saw a tiny bit of movement in a toe or something, or
yeah,
there was
yeah.
something, a bit of feeling, and he was just like, right, I'm going for this. I'm going
Oh,
for it. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Obviously, there are some people who will never be able to do, like they get told they can't again, and it will be a complete
yeah,
spinal cord injury, and there's no chance because the
yeah,
spinal cord's severed or whatever it is. But I mean, in Ed's book, he spoke about a guy who got given the same diagnosis as him, but had one day they were watching TV and he noticed the guy was tapping his foot with the music, and Ed was like, "Mate, like you can try it. You can like try and walk." And he kind of accepted that he was never going to walk again. And Ed
oh,
would get him to the gym every day, and the guy ended up walking again.
mhm.
It's
Wow.
insane, inspiring stuff.
Jesus.
Yeah.
Andy says there, he says, how do you ensure you've got enough time and energy for yourself? Is that something that's obviously something that you're dealing with at the moment?
I'll be honest. If I have a day where I've not got much planned, I almost get a bit concerned.
Yeah,
I don't feel like I need time to sit around and watch TV and like
yeah,
chill out. I want my days to be packed and stuff going
yeah.
on, because otherwise I feel like I've wasted a day. So the time I have for myself is just when I'm exercising. Really,
Mhm.
if I have an hour in the gym a day, I'm sweet. And the more other stuff, the better. Like today, I got up, had a few calls, straight to my hospital appointment, got back, gym, dinner. Now I'm on the phone to you, and that's a good day because I've been to the gym, I've got all these other things done, and yeah, makes me happy just having a
Awesome.
big full day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
awesome. Andy's got a second question. He said, if you could have any other job or role for a day, what would it be and what would you do? Oh, sorry. Yeah, what would it be and what would you do?
That's a hard question. Job for a day. When I was a kid, I always wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
That was what I really wanted to do. I was desperate to be a fighter pilot. I went to uni. And I was like, I still wanted to be a fighter pilot. And I went to the RAF Cranwell to do the tests, and I passed all the tests, flying colours, other than the hand-eye coordination one. So I didn't get
kind
it.
of kind of pivotal for a fighter pilot.
Yeah. Um, so if I could have that, if I could
Yeah.
have done that job, that would have been amazing. But I didn't have the hand-eye coordination for it. And apparently, the only way you can train for it is playing video games, and I've never played video games in my life. So
Really?
yeah, no,
Oh,
never
wow.
done it. Never been a gamer. Are you a big
What?
gamer?
No, God, no, no, no. No, all my
I'm not.
mates at work in the old Bill, they used to chat about all these games, and I just feel like, I ain't got time for that.
That's,
I lived on my bike. I was always
yeah,
out on my bike. Yeah, always.
yeah.
So, nah, it
Waste
wasn't
of
for me.
time.
What did you do at uni then?
I did. So my course is like a mix of economics, maths, quite like analytical stuff. My at school and in life, I've always been good at numbers and like sums. I'm not very good with words and writing. So I did my course was a lot of like maths and stats and finance and
Uh-huh.
economics and working out equations. That was what I was good at. And so I did that. And then after I left uni, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Like I said, I tried to do the military stuff with well actually I did the fighter pilot test. I did all that stuff. Got didn't get in because of my hand-eye coordination thing. And I was like, oh, I'd still quite like to do the military. So I applied to be a Marines officer
Uh-huh.
and then started going down that path. But at the same time, I was at, do you know, the London School of Economics.
Uh-huh.
So I was at uni doing like maths and management and economics and all that stuff. So then the doors opened to like the sort of financy, business, economics, trading world, which kind of fascinated me because I came from a pretty like normal state school and everyone at LSE was like private school, parents had loads of cash and they were talking about all these big jobs they were going to get in the city. So I sort of was like, right, I'll apply for both at the same time and see which one happens. So I went through the whole marine selection process, was doing all the physical tests and this and that. And I had my date for like the final test. At the same time, I was going through like the selection processes for like big trading floor bank jobs.
Oh, wow.
And I ended up getting a hernia in the gym, um, literally like just before my final thing with the Marines. And they were like, right, you can't reapply for 2 years or a year. I can't remember if it was a year or 2 years at the time. I was gutted, but at the same time, I then got offered a couple interviews with like these big American investment banks for like their trading floor. So then I went on the trading floor for like the first time, and I was like, this is pretty nuts. Like I could see myself doing this for a bit of time. So I got into one of the big ones, started doing it for a bit in my early 20s, like bopping around London, like all my friends from LSE was still there, was having a great time. Honestly, I thought I was the fucking business, mate. I was like turning up to like I've absolutely made it. Like I was like the token state school lad on the trading floor. But then slowly the novelty of it just like wore off and I realized my passion isn't actually that. Like it wasn't something I wanted to do because I cared about the job. I just thought, this is how have I managed up? How have I managed up getting here? Uh, and then I earned enough money to like obviously buy my bike and do my traveling. So then I just quit, and it was quite funny because I think they all knew that deep down it wasn't me. But when people go into these jobs and they quit, it's like, oh, what bank are you going to? What hedge fund or private equity or and then what are you doing? Why are you quitting? You're at the start of your career, and I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go motorbiking around. I think.
Yeah. Have you heard of Gary's Economics?
What's that?
Have you ever seen Gary's Economics? Gary, I can't
No,
remember his surname. You never heard of
no,
it?
no.
He's on Instagram. He's on YouTube. Very similar story to you, but except he literally comes from a very 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 working class background, but
Yeah,
he just had a brain for statistics
yeah,
and basically trading. He just had a brain for it and excelled at his sort of state school that eventually put him same sort of path to you. I think he went to LSE and then he ended up on the trading, but he became the most successful trader for like God knows how many years on the bounce. Made millions and millions out of it. But he got to a similar sort of point where he was just like, what's the actual point in this? He's just
yeah.
like, what is the point? So he has this channel where he explains economics to you, and
I have to look
it's
them up.
it's really interesting to see. Yeah.
It sounds like I had a similar path, but unfortunately, I didn't earn millions and millions.
Well, I keep saying to you, it's life's path, though, isn't it?
I didn't. I didn't do. I did not do it. I didn't do it for that long. I don't regret doing it at all because it was one of those things that in my early 20s, it was exciting and it was like, you know, I was looking around thinking, how have I got into this position? And it was really exciting. And then the moment it became not interesting, I'm not driven by money at all. I'd say my life goal and my driver is just to have an interesting life.
Yeah.
And if you do that for like, a little bit of time out of uni, it's interesting. It's something. I could tell you. I'll tell you stories about the training floor and this and that. I'm glad I had the experience of being there. If you stayed there for a career, you're there 50 years or whatever it is, you're then just a finance person. Not interesting, is it? Like, then after 5 years, all the fun and excitement you're ever going to have is gone, and then you're just doing it as a job.
Yeah.
So that wasn't me. Didn't fancy it.
It gave you the collateral to do what you want to do, to go traveling, didn't it?
Yeah. I saved up a bit of cash and then went and did what I wanted to do with my time, which was that. And if I hadn't done that job, I would have had to probably work longer before I could have quit. Yeah. So actually it worked out nicely. But again, I didn't really have a plan. I didn't think in my head, right, I'm going to do 4 years to the day or 5 years and whatever, and then leave and do this. It sort of just naturally took its path. Like when I first started doing the job, I was like, wow, this is amazing. All these people, have done it for ages. They're so successful. And then slowly it just went, oh, actually, one sec. I don't want to be you in 30 years. No, thanks.
I get that. There's so many, I used to see people like that in the old bill who, the vast majority of people in the old bill just focus on the pension. Back when I was in, it was 30 years. You do your 30 years, you get your pension. It's that pension. Just put up with all that shite. 30 years, get the pension, get the pension. The amount of blokes who would get the pension and 6 months later keel over with a heart attack, and that's it. And you're like, 30 years of their life, they've literally earlys, lates and nights putting up with all that shite in a job that they hated for at least 20 years of it. And, they never got to enjoy that pension. Yeah.
Did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy being a policeman?
Yeah. I mean, I think I had some of my biggest highs and lows in life during my time in the old bill. It is a fantastic job. It can be incredibly rewarding, but it can be brutal. It can be lethal. It can be soul and heart destroying somehow. You deal with life in every aspect. You deal with the best parts of life, the worst parts of life. You deal with the best parts of people, the worst parts of people. You see people excelling and doing like proper heroic stuff. I'm not just talking about old bill, members of the public. You see normal people doing just insane things to try and help other people. And then you see the opposite end, people doing horrific things to other people, and I think that changes you, that really does have an impact on you. It changes you as a person. Yeah. And then all the outside influences that you have to deal with, like the media really fucked me off, because you realize the media are just full of shit. There's nothing factual reported in the news. It's just, it's political. It's what's going to get the biggest amount of attention, It's
clickbait rubbish as well, isn't it now?
Yeah, it is. It always has been though, mate, because before Facebook and everything, I was in the old bill from 2002. So that's before Facebook and all that shit was there. And I remember dealing with stuff. I'd go home and I'd watch it on the news, and you'd see what they'd report in the news, and you'd be like, that's not what happened. I was there. That's not what happened. And you just say, this is utter shit. But anyway, yeah. So I'm glad I'm out. I'm glad I did it, but I'm glad I'm out.
Yeah, I think that's the same with most things in life, isn't it? You do it for as long as it makes you happy and you're fulfilled by it, and then you do something else. And the people that take the most out of their lives are the ones that stay doing the same thing forever, expecting a different outcome, and they're just not happy in it. But
it's your path. I think life has a way of throwing opportunities your way, which at the time might not feel like opportunities, but it's up to you to recognize it as that and do whatever you're going to do with it, I think.
Yeah. If you want to look out for opportunities as well, and the next thing, you'll see it. You'll see them come.
Yeah. Andy's got a final bit of a question. He says, finally one for Bruce. What New Year resolutions have you managed to keep going? I'm afraid mine didn't last the first week. Go. There's two main ones. Yeah, there's two main ones. There's the rower. So I am still rowing, but I'm certainly not rowing 5 days a week at the moment. There's a rower, so I'm still doing that at the moment. And the other one is just, I've moved into my new office, did that last week. I just want to be more productive. I take too long editing my vids, and I need to change the style of filming and my editing process. I need to speed that up because it's just, I've got all of 2024 still to edit. So, I'm a long way behind with the editing. So that needs to change. I need to figure that out.
What the editing? Do you like the editing for your podcast?
No, see, the podcast is just like a side thing. I enjoy having a blather, Luke. So, I just do the podcast as something for me, to be honest. It's a way to meet people like you. I've managed to get some incredible people on this podcast who I probably would never get the opportunity to sit and chat with. So I do it because I enjoy it. My main job, if you like, is YouTube, is creating motorcycle and travel content on YouTube. And I have a touring company, a motorcycle touring company as well. So obviously I film when I'm away on these tours, and I've just got a shed load of content still to edit from that because I'm away 6 months of the year. I'm away, every 3 weeks.
Your YouTube handle, is it the same as the podcast? Or
no, see, I've got 2 YouTube channels. I've got Brew Time, which is the podcast, but my main one is called TeapotOne. So just TeapotOne, TeapotOne. That was the name of the world trip, so I've just carried it on. So that's the main one, and that's where I'll
watch some of your vids.
Cheers, dude. Thank you. Right, okay, cheers for that, Andy. Next one, Colonel Bullen. We've got 1, 2, 3. After Colonel, there's 3 more on Patreon, mate. I'm aware I'm taking up hours of your life here. Is that all right?
I'm chilled, I'm relaxed. Don't worry at all.
All right, buddy.
Yeah. I promise you, I'm not in a rush. Just ask away.
Colonel Bullen, what a great guest, Bruce. I followed Luke's story on Instagram when he had the accident. Luke, do you have any plans to travel the world again? Keep up the good work, gents. Yeah, we've covered that, haven't we? Sorry, mate, it's another duplicate.
No, we have, but I mean, when the word again is the word there, which I disagree with, because no matter how many times you travel, there's always stuff you're going to miss. Even if you go to any country, you'll never. I find it weird when people say, like, and I do it sometimes. They say, "Oh, I did that. I did that. Oh yeah, I did that." You've never done a country. There's always so much other things you could do in it. So there's tons of countries I've not visited. There's tons of things in the countries I have visited I want to do, and I think you can spend your whole life traveling and you still never see everything. So
yeah, absolutely. You could spend a big portion of your life traveling one country, couldn't you? And probably still not see everything.
Yeah. There are certain countries I want to spend more time in than others, for sure. But definitely, like the Mexico thing earlier is a perfect example. I could spend a year in Mexico and I still have more things I wanted to do.
Mate, I tell you, I don't know how much travel you've done here in the UK, but I tell you what, we've got some awesome things to see here in the UK, which I think a lot of people we just take it for granted and don't bother about it. We head off to all these far-flung places. But COVID definitely made me, when you couldn't travel, they wouldn't let you travel, but I could still get out on my bike because it's my job. So you go out and you just go exploring, and it's like, bloody hell, there's some stunningly beautiful places right here.
What would be your top UK recommendation? I bet it's going to be in Scotland. I bet it's going to be in Scotland, isn't it?
On the bike, yeah, 100%. Northwest Scotland. If you go up, I love Sutherland up in the northwest. It's just there's fucking nothing there. There's nobody there, and I love that. It's rugged, it's remote, but you're never far from somebody.
Yeah.
But it's.
I'd love to do the North Coast 500. I've never done it. I'd love to.
Thing is, that can be a bit of a conveyor belt. It's still amazing riding, but honestly, up in the northwest, if you just come inland a little bit, there's single track roads all up there, And there's nowhere near the traffic that you'll get on the actual North Coast 500, but there's some stunning places to see, just stunning. And the islands, the Outer Hebrides, Inner Hebrides, all up round there. It's just gorgeous.
You wouldn't want to be there this time of year, would you?
Yeah, it could be pretty brutal at the moment. Yeah, absolutely. Cheers to that one, Colonel. Next one, Gordon Bissell. Gordon's going to have a good question, guaranteed. Hi, guys. Interesting guest and podcast. As the prosthetics geek in the room, I was just wondering, what type of socket do you have, ratchet or suction, and what foot do you have? The reason Gordon asks is because he was very high up in prosthetics in, well, not just the UK, I think worldwide for quite a long time. So
yeah, well, I've actually gotten I've got a leg back today. So today was the first time I've walked in over a month, and I've got a suction leg at the moment, and my foot is at the moment is a foot from Ossa. It's called the Ossa Terra. It's like a new foot that they've just launched. So I don't know if you can get it yet, but I'm like trialing it out, and it's
Wow.
amazing. But I've got like 5% of what you can do from the foot from it currently, because I'm just like hobbling about with a stick. But I mean, people have climbed mountains and stuff with it. It's an amazing bit of kit.
Wow.
Yeah, the Ossa Terra is the foot I'm currently on. But my prosthetic clinic is a place called Dorset Orthopedic, and they're amazing. So they're making all my sockets and they're looking after me. You'll probably know what that is as well.
Yeah, Gordon's probably sat there going, yeah, I know. Are you dealing with Dr. Such and Such? You'll know them all. Yeah, really interesting bloke, actually. I've had many a conversation with Gordon. Good lad.
I'm going to have to get all the prosthetic companies that help me out tattooed on my arm at some point, I think.
Yeah, they're not cheap, are they? Gee whiz. I remember Martin, half man, half pirate, that asked the question earlier on.
Yeah.
When he was on the podcast like 3 years ago or so, he was talking about getting a new prosthetic, but I think it was something like 40 grand, 50 grand. It was an insane amount of money.
I think the knees. Because he's the one that's above knee, right? I think the knees are quite. They've got a lot of like tech in them. I don't know how much. I've never looked at the price of the knees and that, but there's a lot of tech that goes into them, and I think they're not the cheapest.
Yeah. Stunning. The engineering behind it is phenomenal. Yeah. Gordon says, money no object, what edition would you have? Oh, and which prosthetic centre do you attend? NHS or private?
There we go.
There you go.
Dorset Orthopedic, that's my centre. They're wicked. They're wicked. I recommend them to anyone. They're not nice people.
So, like you says, money no object, what edition would you have? Like, is there
addition to like the leg?
I think on your prosthetic, yeah. Is there like a Bugatti Veyron prosthetic?
I've not come across it. I think that I think it'd be quite cool to get. So like on my panniers of my motorbike, I'm sure yours probably the same, covered in stickers. I had stickers from absolutely everywhere, and I quite like to do the same thing, but on my prosthetic leg, but obviously they'd be all a bit minging and fall off. So I've actually been speaking to them about if I collect loads of stickers from like places I've travelled and motorbike things and whatever it is, then they can like laminate it onto my prosthetic. I think that would look pretty cool. I basically got a pannier on my leg then. So that's probably the addition I get if I could get it. But I think the leg I've got, like the foot I've got, is probably one of the better ones now, the Ossa one. I don't know a huge amount about prosthetics. I just know that's like the new big one that everyone wants to try. Yeah. So I think I've got a good one.
Martin, half man, half pirate, he has some sort of, I think it's like a cowling type of thing on his lower prosthetic, and he's got like a tattoo type sticker on it.
Yeah.
He's had all that done.
It's cool. I'll probably put it up tomorrow. I was making a video earlier. There's in my prosthetic center, they've got this. They do like silicone limbs as well. So you can get a leg which looks like your original leg. They'll color match it to your skin. They'll put in freckles.
Really?
They'll make the hair look like your hair. Yeah. They'll make it look like a fully lifelike leg. For me, I mean, a lot of people I know are super self-conscious about looking like an amputee or looking disabled. Whatever it is that, for me, I want it to look as mechanical as possible. Like I want it to be and carbon. But for some people, the hardest part for them is the way they are perceived. So
Yeah.
for that sort of person, having a silicone leg is amazing because it means they can, if they're a girl, they can wear a dress, they can wear sandals, they can paint the nails and make it look like they've got a leg. And I think for some people, that's like the biggest part. But yeah, I don't think I'll end up with a silicone leg. Quite happy with a big black metal looking thing.
With wings and all sorts on it. Yeah.
Whatever.
Right, cheers for that one, Gordon. Last one on Patreon, Charlie Callard. Evening, gents. Hope you're both well. How you doing, Charlie? So a couple of questions. If money were no object, which fast food chain would you buy and why? Wow.
Oh, which fast food chain? I think I'm not at like, I take quite good care of my, I try, I was about to say take quite good care of my body, but I'm actually just smashing butt. I like to try and look after myself with what I eat. I feel like a sort of fast food chain like Leon. You ever have Leon?
No, never even heard of them.
Good. Now I've said it, you'll see it everywhere. If you're ever in London, they're on every corner. But
Leon.
It's like rice and chicken, and they do wraps and stuff. It's not like processed fast food. They just do these like rice boxes and stuff. You'll see it everywhere now. There's probably about 100 of them.
I don't go into London if I can help it. I've spent too many years in London. The last thing I ever want to do on a day off is go in there.
Yeah, they're quite good. We're giving them a bit of free promo on the podcast.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm not in any way affiliated to Leon, by the way. Just want to let you know that.
But you won't say no to some free Leon grub.
Yeah. No, I've said that. Send me some chicken, please.
There you go, yeah. Charlie says, on a similar note, again, money no object, if you were to pick a good old Yank 4x4 and kit it for an American or Canadian adventure, which would it be?
Well, say all Yank 4x4, but I feel like I actually, this one, I do owe them something because Jeep have loaned me a Jeep, which is amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. And they basically just said, like, we'll give it to you for 6 months. And if you want to go and do some cool things in it, just like tag us and post videos with it. Like, it's wicked. And one of the parts of having the Jeep was they also said, like, the one I've got is a kind of get around London one. Get around the UK one. But they said if you ever want like a Wrangler with a roof tent, we'll lend you it for like a little Europe trip or whatever. So I've kind of got that up already. Yeah, that's I've got a quite a nice relationship with Jeep. So I'm thinking when I've got my leg back on, I might start doing some roof tent trip Europe with them, which would be quite cool. So
awesome, mate! Grab these, as we said, opportunities come your way.
Yeah, exactly. No, I put it on my Instagram story, like a picture of the Jeep, and was like, cheers. Like they just delivered it to my front door, and I was like, cheers, Jeep, this is amazing. And I had like, thousands of people replying, going, how have you managed to get this? And I was like, honestly, I don't know. I don't know how to start people. But if you're happy to lend me one, then thanks.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, straight away, as soon as Charlie asked, I was just thinking the old Toyota Land Cruiser, because they're everywhere, aren't they? Like from every war you can think of to just the arsehole of nowhere, there's always a Toyota Land Cruiser, and they just seem to be bomb-proof, literally.
They are. Yeah. I've done a couple of adventures in a Land Cruiser. They're good. Nice cars.
He's saying about this American-Canadian adventure, he says, where would you start and finish, and who or what would you take with you?
I feel like start and finish is a hard one because, like I said, with the rest of my trips, I quite like just seeing where the wind takes me and where I end up. The number of times I've ended up staying with a family or something for like 2 weeks, and I started my last trip in Texas, the one from down through the Americas, and I love Texas. I'd really like to go back and visit. There's some, like, if you're into barbecue and country music, which I am, it's the perfect place to go. What was the thing? What would I take with me?
Yeah. Or who would you take with you?
Well, I'd definitely take my leg with me, my prosthetic leg. That's one of these coming. I feel like I should probably take my mate Jack if I had to take anyone, because he came out to meet me in think by the time he got there, I think I was in Guatemala, but like I said, it took me months to get from the US to Guatemala. So I was just meandering about, staying with people and just like doing everything. And then Jack flew out to Texas, bought his bike at the same place I did, and then literally bombed to where I was in like 2 weeks. So then after that we were together. But we would always go off and do little side adventures. So like when I crossing like the Darien Gap, he wanted just to fly, so he flew, and I did it on a boat and stuff, and did, stopped on the islands and camped on the islands and that. So we sometimes would do different things for a couple of weeks and link back up again. So when I crashed, I was on my own, but then Jack immediately flew to where I was. Was amazing. Was there night and day, like I say, looking after me. He was there with obviously all the doctors and that. But then I said to him, mate, you've got to carry on your trip, like head down to Ecuador, carry on doing what you're doing. And he got into Ecuador and he was just like, I don't want to do it without you, mate. So he's now waiting for me to finish it off.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Yeah. I was in hospital in London, and he just turned up one day, and I thought he was in Ecuador. And he just parked his bike up and he's like, mate, we'll finish it together when you're ready. And I was like,
wow.
My man.
Jeez, yeah. Wow. Times like these, man, yeah, you must. Well, you plainly do. You discover who your real mates are, don't you? And who means the most in your life, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It was a big thing with, like I said, with me on my trip when I finished was I realised how much family and friends meant to me. Like I might not see my family or my mates all the time, but when you do see them, you really value the time that you spend with people. Yeah, and I think almost maybe I took them for granted before, whereas now I put a lot of weight on good friendships, whether that's family friendships or normal friendships. Yeah.
On your trip, did you have any accidents? Did you ever have any crashes? Any falls? Like obviously you probably dropped your bike a couple of times, but like what? Yeah. Anything that stands out?
Nothing like you're going through. I had. I snapped the rear subframe a couple of times, but I didn't even come off with that. But I had a big crash in Japan just because I was riding like a twat. I was on a jigsaw, and I'm on a jigsaw. I'm in Japan, and I'm up in the mountains near Mount Fuji, and I just thought to myself, if ever there's a place to get your knee down, it's here. So I'd met up with a Kiwi guy and a Russian lad who were sort of showing me some mountain roads to head to Motegi, the race circuit, Motegi.
Yeah.
So I was heading there just to get a picture. And one of the lads said, look, give us your camera, give us your GoPro 1. That's how long ago this was. Give us your camera and we'll film you because you won't have any footage of you on the bike. So that's a brilliant idea. Cheers. So that's when I came up with this idea to put my knee down on camera. Yeah. And I just came up to a bend and was trying to put my knee down. And I was right over on the left of the road, and I hit some like gravel in the road just at my braking point. So the front started to drift. I came off the brakes to try and get it to roll again, and it just rolled basically off the road. And there was a big Armco going around the outside of the road, and I just target fixated on that. I looked at the Armco, and that's exactly where I went. Just smashed straight into it. It's all on camera, and yeah, that was it. So I was okay. I wasn't injured, but the bike was smashed up. But then through that, the guy that I was with said, don't worry about it. We've got a mate of ours. He's quite handy with the tools. He's got a van. Give him a call. A couple of hours later, this other Aussie guy, Pete, turned up. And literally, we lifted my bike onto the back of his little Suzuki flatbed truck. He took me to his family barbecue at the bottom of Mount Fuji, where he was with his family for the weekend. And he said, you can stay with us, and I'll help you fix the bike. So I ended up living with him and his family for about 3 or 4 weeks, and we literally used the Japanese eBay to buy secondhand parts, and he rebuilt the bike for me. Basically, got it all back on the road.
Like I was saying before, and that's a great story. And I bet almost now you're glad it happened.
Oh God, yeah. That's part of that's the adventure, though, isn't it? Because if none of this sort of stuff happens, I maybe wouldn't go as extreme as you, Jack. But if things like these, if breakdowns and getting lost and running out of fuel and just issues, if none of that happens, it's just a holiday.
Yeah, yeah,
It's just a bike trip.
exactly,
When stuff
exactly.
goes wrong, it becomes an adventure, doesn't it?
Absolutely. There was a thing in Panama, not quite the same, not quite the same because I wasn't on the road trying to get my knee down, but I was just sometimes when I was off road, I'd get a bit carried away and I would just start opening up. We like, me and Jack would be like going through rivers and like just enjoying ourselves. And I ended up, um, I think I was going over a rock or something and basically just dented my wheel. And then I ended up on this basically week long mission because I was in literally the middle of nowhere. I ended up on this week long mission to get my bike fixed. And I met so many people and had so many just interactions along the way trying to get it sorted. And I ended up driving halfway across Panama with a bloke who was delivering rice because we managed to get my bike in his rice truck. And then but to get the bike in the rice truck, there's like a metre and a half off the floor. So we had to get like 15 of the local lads to help get the bike in the rice truck. And I was like, oh, they helped me out. I should probably give them some money. Gave them some money, a massive brawl erupts because like they were fighting over the money. So I'm just there like, and then they're all trying to get, I'm just look back at it thinking all of that because I dented my wheel.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's not. It's in it again. It's this. It's just this. It's just life, isn't it? Life. Just there you go. Have that. Deal with that now. There you are. Make of it what you will.
Yeah.
Right, dude. That's all the clan questions. There's some over on Instagram. Are you all right to do the Instagram ones? You sure?
Yeah, man.
I know you've had a long day here. I don't want to keep you up all blooming night.
No, you're good.
Right, okay, so I head across to at TeapotOne Insta. First one we got here, Life 2 on tour. How you doing, guys? We were in Colombia when Luke had his accident and met Jack before he returned home. Luke's attitude has been amazing. I know it's not all smiles for Instagram, and there will have been some real downtimes, but Luke always picks himself up and moves on. A true inspiration to others to grab life now and make the most from every moment. We look forward to him and Jack getting back out on the road and completing the trip. Our question, it may be a deep one. We know Jack was there for you in hospital and has been since. You can't possibly be the same two people you were before it. Travel changes you anyway, and a massive life event like this will have had an effect on both of you. Have you talked about it, and how has it changed your relationship? It's from Carl and Icy. Easy.
Oh, that's such a nice message. I know they are as well through Jack. And I mean I've been best mates with Jack for a long time. We've always had a brotherly type relationship in the sense that if you were probably around us for a long period of time, you'd think these two just like bicker and hate each other. But actually, it's like we're like brothers. We absolutely love each other deep down. And he's been there for me during the toughest moments I've ever had. And night and day, Jack was like, Jack didn't have anywhere to stay. He slept like in the hospital on the little metal bed, on the little metal chairs, and was just there for a whole week until my parents arrived. My parents, once they sorted out all the insurance stuff, my parents arrived and kind of took some of the load off Jack. But I mean, he was there night and day. Jack, bless him, his Spanish isn't great, so he was there with his Google Translate, trying to translate. When I ended up getting sepsis, he's the one that noticed it. He was like, he's got sepsis, and he flagged it to them. And with something like sepsis, the quicker you catch it, the better. I've met people who've lost through having sepsis, so thank God that didn't happen. Well, I mean, even to the point where my kidney stopped working, and like I found out down the line that Jack was trying to offer one of his own kidneys. I mean, yeah. So as far as our friendship goes, it's the same as it has always been. We love each other. And yeah, he's my boy, and he always will be. And one day we'll get back on the road and finish the trip, and that'll be a special. Well, I say a special moment. The whole thing will be special. It's like It's needed. We finish the story.
Absolutely.
Yeah, good question.
Wow, good on you, Jack. Good on you, and cheers for that question. Next one, Lucia Ockett. Sorry, Lucia, I've probably butchered your surname there. I'm really sorry. Looking forward to this one. I've been following Luke's progress for a few months now. Very inspiring. My question, has your perspective on riding changed since the accident? And when are you going to travel first once your leg allows it?
Yeah, we touched on that earlier. I think I'm not going to truthfully know how I feel about it until I'm riding myself again, because I think there's an element of, and you'll know this better than anyone, when you're riding and you're hurtling through the atmosphere and there's mountains and there's twisties and you're not thinking I'm on a bike. You're just a being blasting through the atmosphere, and you're kind of in a flow state. You're not really worrying about anything or thinking about, you're not thinking, oh, I need to change gear now or I'm going around the corner. You're just in the moment. Mm-hmm. And I do wonder if I'll get back on a bike and be able to click back into that, or whether now I'll be like you were when you first got back on your bike and thinking, oh shit, there's a thing, that there's gravel on the floor, there's this, there's that. Because I also don't know what caused my crash. I don't know if it was someone else's fault. I don't know if it was my fault. I don't know anything about it. That I don't know if I'm going to get on my bike and then be really cautious and scared. I just don't know. And I think it's going to take getting back on it to find out, to be honest.
Yeah. And you probably will be to begin with, like.
I'm sure I will be. I was like that getting back in the car, like, let alone being on the bike.
Yeah.
So I think that's going to be interesting. But in terms of where I want to travel, I mean, like, it's not a good answer, but everywhere. I just want to experience every place and everything. And like I said, I've got China. China's the next big one I've got booked. I'm really looking forward to that, because it's a place you don't see many people going there on holiday or traveling, really. Like, everyone's got this view of China, and I'm quite keen to just go and experience it for myself and get my own opinion. So I'm doing that in April, but I might be able to sneak one in before then.
So are you able to just freely travel in China, or are you having to do the escorted travel?
Well, again, one of the opportunities that has come as a result of being in this situation is, like, travel companies have obviously seen that I was doing all this traveling, and they're interested in partnering to do certain trips. So I got a call from, well, actually I met them in person. This company, I don't know if you've heard of it, called Intrepid Travel. And they were like, are you interested in doing a trip with us? And I was like, obviously. And my mate Doug, who's a travel writer, made the intro. So they said he'd come as well. And they just said, like, where do you want to go? And obviously China's probably not a place you'd naturally end up doing on a motorbike by yourself. So I thought that's a great place to do it as a trip planned by someone else. So they're taking care of everything. And as far as like a first get back into it trip, they're also very aware of like accessibility and this and that, which is something I've never thought of before, and I still don't really think about it. I get on the tube and try and like pull my own wheelchair up and all sorts, but they're aware of it, and they're going to make sure that, like, if my leg doesn't play ball and I can't wear my prosthetic, I'll still be able to do what I can in the wheelchair and stuff. So I'll have that support, which is nice. So yeah, I don't know exactly what the plan is, to be honest. They're sorting it all out, which is amazing.
Wow. Man, I can't wait to follow that on the socials. I was going to say something there when you were saying, when you're riding, you get into this sort of zone and everything's going, you're flying along. I remember I used to ride on my Jigsaw, and even once I moved to adventure bikes, and I had a Aprilia Tuono for a while. I look back now and I just think, you utter twat, because I used to ride just as fast as I could everywhere, but I always felt in control. Always felt in control. I rode the way we were taught in the old bill, and I used the system, but I would max my Jigsaw out, which is just insane. 186 miles an hour, and you're just like, you are red mist, and anything you hit is red mist. Yeah. But I used to feel totally in control, and I can deal with stuff. And then I just remember that one time when someone pulled out in front of me and I didn't manage to stop. I'd always managed to stop before, whatever was happening. That one time I didn't, and I was only doing like 35, 36 mile an hour, whatever it was. It wasn't fast. and I just couldn't stop in time. That has had the biggest impact on me. You know, I threw myself off a mountain in Germany and broke my back, ended up in intensive care in Germany, all sorts. Didn't slow me down in the slightest. A 30 odd mile an hour one in central London, that has had the biggest impact on me. And now I am much more, what's the word? Calculated, I think, and reserved in my riding now. So nowadays I am always thinking, I am always reading. Yeah. I think that's age as well, you know, as you kind of, you don't bounce as much anymore, and you don't heal the way you used to heal.
Well, I think there's probably an element there, though, of like, if it didn't affect you when those other ones happened, maybe it's because you realised it's not always down to you. Like when you came off the bike because you were trying to get your knee on the floor, you're like, right, well, I won't be an idiot and try and put my knee on the floor again when there's a bit of gravel around, or, you know, I'm not going to ride too fast in this scenario because it caused that. When it's somebody else's fault, like you say, that person looks you dead in the eye, pulls out. Yeah. You realise that there are things on the road which aren't in your control, and the maybe more carefully riding, the better you'll be able to respond to other people's mistakes. That's probably like that's what it was. Yeah, that's what's been a big impact for me. Yeah. I've never really had, like, I've spent hours and hours and hours on my motorbike, and I've obviously dropped my bike and off road. Like, you know, there were trips I've done off road where I've come off my bike 10 times in a day, but you're never going fast. You're in mud and you just pick it up and carry on, and it's just annoying. But I've never had like a real proper crash until the big one. So I just don't know what it's going to be like getting back on the thing.
Mate, if it's for you, you'll deal with it. You'll just deal with it. And if it's not, if it doesn't bring you the same enjoyment, you'll find someone else that does. Do you know what I mean? It's like maybe you're going to go down the 4-wheel route. Who knows? The 3-wheel route. Who knows? Who knows?
I hope I just get back on, and it's like an old friend, an old friend who's hurt me, but I've forgiven them.
Mate, patience. Take your time. Just take your time. Right, cheers to that one, Lucia. Apologies again if I've screwed up the pronunciation. Next one, Tricky Woos. Yes, can't wait. I've loved following Luke despite his horrendous experience last year. His get up and go attitude is blooming superb. Another one from Scooper Photog. S, he's one inspirational guy. Doogie_RS. Here's a question. How do you find riding with a prosthetic leg, and how is it any different? Well, you've not yet, have you? Other than being on the back. Yeah.
You know, it's hard as a pillion. The leg just pings off, but I'm fascinated to see how it's going to be with a prosthetic. I truly don't know what that's going to be.
Well, this leads on to the next one. Flossie or Flow55Y. Do you think there's a market for adapted bikes? Well, absolutely there is. Have you worked with the National Association of Disabled Bikers yet? NADB?
No, I've not. I've not spoken to them. I've got a call tomorrow with they reached out to me. It's this thing called the Ride Again Foundation. Mm-hmm. They're based in the US. And the call tomorrow is just to work out what it is really, because I don't know much about it. But they sent me a message saying, "Oh, do you want to like come and do our course in New York in June or July?" And I was like, "Yeah." and I've looked at some of their videos, and they basically help people who've had big motorbike crashes.
Wow.
Get riding again. Yeah, it's quite cool. People who have lost legs or I guess spinal cord injuries and stuff, and they help them get back on a bike in a circuit controlled situations. They can actually just have a go before going back out on the road. So I'm going to probably do that. That'll probably be my first time I get back on a bike. I've got the call tomorrow. I don't know exactly what.
See how it goes. Yeah. Awesome.
But that'll be it.
Gotcha. There's one here in the UK. I've had the chaps on the podcast here. There is one here in the UK. And yeah, in answer to your question, there is a whole market in adapted bikes for sure. Yeah. It's out there. I mean, just off the cuff, off the top of my head, and I haven't even asked him, but my mate Martin, half man, half pirate, I'm sure he'd be up for going for a ride and a brew with you if you're in a position. Sure. Yeah,
Yeah, I'd be well up
he's,
for that.
he was a courier. He was a courier in London, I think, maybe not in London, but he was a courier. And, he's been riding with a prosthetic for 20 odd years now, maybe even 30
No, I'd be
years.
well up for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amalia Chloe Fleet. Again, apologies if I've got the
Sounds
pronunciation
about
wrong.
right. Yeah.
Question: what's your favourite country or place to ride? Somewhere you'd go back to in a heartbeat purely for the bike trip?
So I think that I'm slightly biased on this one now because I feel a deep connection to Colombia because of what happened and the people. And even if I listen to a video from Colombia, I hear in Medellin they've got a nickname. They're called Paisa. It's the name which you order a paisa. It's the thing you get for your food, and they're all called paisas. They all used to say I look like a paisa as well because apparently I don't know what paisa actually means. I hope it's not offensive, but it's just like the word for people from Medellin, and they've all got like dark hair and a tash, and they would all say, "Oh, ¿de dónde eres?" Like, where are you from? And I was like, "Soy paisa." I'd like pretend I was from there as well. And then obviously I had my crash there. We spent a lot of time, and I feel a deep longing to go back to that place. And in terms of purely as a bike trip, it was almost quite poetic. Like in the lead up to the crash, some of the riding that I did, it will stay with me forever. Like up in the Andes Mountains, totally on my own, 5,000 meters, haven't spoken to anyone all day. And I spoke about this on my Instagram before, where I was just looking out over the sun setting and nature, and for the first time in my entire life, I cried tears of joy because I was just so moved by just being on my own in that impressive place. It might have just been the altitude just getting to my head, I don't know, but I was like blown away. And this was pretty soon to like pretty close to when I crashed. So that's it was almost a bit of a see you later to the bike and this magical setting. And then obviously like, a couple of weeks later, I'm smashed up. So that's my last memory of true motorcycling, and that's what I pine for and I miss. It's rose glasses, thinking about an ex-girlfriend, but it's actually my bike.
No, I get you.
I'll get that there.
Yeah, I was only in Colombia for a short period of time. I crossed from Ecuador across into Colombia, and then I headed to Medellin, and then I flew from Medellin to Panama. I flew the bike over the Darien rather than do the boat thing. Yeah. But I really, really liked Colombia. Again, it's one of those places everyone's, don't go there, they'll kill you, blah, blah. Nicest people you ever meet. I got proposed to in a petrol station in Colombia.
By your future partner, or like
random lady. Like you know how in like Central and parts of South America, the petrol stations a lot of the time the attendants are women, aren't they? And a lot of the time they're scantily clad to bring the geezers in and spend their money. Well, I pulled into this petrol station and it was. You're probably a bit young for this. Do you know who Benny Hill is?
I feel like I know his name.
He was an old sort of 70s, 80s British comedian, and he used to do.
I think I know that.
The real titillation type comedy where, like, either he's chasing the receptionist in the suspenders with a basque, or she's chasing him. It's like beach postcard British humour, from back in the day. Yeah. So I pulled into this petrol station, and it was literally like a Benny Hill sketch. Every pump attendant was dressed as something different. So there's the mechanic with the overalls opened all up like this, showing a bit of cleavage. There's a French maid. There's everything that you could think of. A lassie in a bikini. So I've pulled in to get some fuel, and the mechanic lady sort of came over and she asked something in Spanish, and I didn't speak any Spanish. So I was like, sorry, do you speak English at all? And she was like, you're English? Again, I said, no, not English. I'm from Scotland. And she went, Scottish, and she shouted this name. It was something like, I don't know, let's just say it was I don't know, Bianca or something. She shouted this name, and this like Amazonian goddess just appeared from where the pay building, the main building for the station. She appeared, and she was dressed like a secretary, dark hair, the dark glasses. She had a short skirt on with suspenders on display, waistcoat with like ample bosom and stuff. Just like your teenage boy's wet dream, my wet dream. It was phenomenal. And she came out and said something to this woman from across the forecourt, and then she just like laser focused on me, strided straight up to me, right up to my face, and she went, "Speak to me, say something." So I said hello and how are you, that sort of stuff. And she just went, "Oh, marry me." And she threw her leg, facing me, she threw her leg over my head, over the petrol tank, and sat on the petrol tank, and she was like, "Come, let's go." So I took her for a wee hurl. We went on a wee hurl on the bike just around the petrol station, you know. I was just like, "Oh, I like Colombia. I really like Colombia."
What I want to know is why you're currently sat in the UK and you're not permanently there. Like, why? What's led you to then not stay there?
because Luke, I wasn't married, but I was with my now wife when I left, and yeah. We'll leave it at that, mate. We'll leave it at that. Stories over a beer.
When you flew your bike, was Overland Embassy a thing at that time, or did you have to like go through an airline or something?
It was just went through airlines themselves. I used a shipping company who's now, I think they've now gone out of business, but I have a very good friend, and she set up a shipping company shortly after they went out of business. So I just contacted them and said, right, I'm in such and such a country. I want to go to here. Like when I was in Australia, I'd be like, right, I need to get across to South America. Where do I need to go? When do I need to be there? And how much am I looking at? So they'd go away, figure out what the logistics of it all, and then come back to me and say, right, okay, we can get you on a flight from, like, say, Sydney to Santiago on this date. It's going to cost this amount of money. Bosh. And that's how I did. I only flew by air. I had to fly back from Dakar with the bike back to the UK. I flew from Australia to Chile. I flew across the Darien Gap, and then I flew from New York to Manchester. And then they drove the bike in a van to Dublin because it was cheaper to do it that way than fly straight into Dublin for some reason.
You have the bike at home now? Still?
Yeah. She's back on the road. I've got her in the garage.
Oh, amazing.
Mate, love it. She's got 101,000 miles on her, and she looks like she's got 101,000 miles on her, but I'll never get rid of that bike, mate. Never get rid of it.
Of course you can't. Never.
No.
I'll never get rid of that. No, that was insane.
Yeah, it's my baby. Right, it's a couple more questions, mate, and then we're done. Leslie Tan 69. Okay, I'll ask the hard question. If you could change anything on your bike, what would it be, and how is your mum doing? Well, I mean, you haven't got the bike now, do you?
I mean, what I changed on the bike, I haven't seen it obviously since the crash. I've seen photos of it, but it is pretty smashed up. In fact, I have one part of the bike here with me, and it's a pannier, which is upstairs, which is
right.
Smashed up. In terms of what I'd change on the bike, I mean, to be fair, when I bought my bike, I flew to the US with absolutely no idea how I was going to get a bike, because if you're not a US citizen or have the right papers, it's pretty hard. I don't really know how they managed to make it work, but I got one in Texas from a dealership in Texas. But like, I was limited to what they had in stock. There was nothing. There was not like, oh, we'll arrange for a bike. We could order it and you have it in 3 months. It was like, they were the only ones that seemed to be happy to sell me a bike. Yeah. And they had a Suzuki V-Strom 650 in stock, and I was like, perfect. That works nicely. The only trouble was it wasn't the ADV version. It was like it was still an adventure bike, but there's two versions. There's one with like spoked wheels, and a slightly higher bike, and it already comes with like a bash plate and all that stuff and crash bars and a lot. I didn't have that, so I ended up adding it myself as I went along. So I started off with like the stock model coming out of the dealership in Texas, and then I got to Mexico and I added some bits, and the further down I went, by the time I ended up in like South America, I had the crash bars, I had the hand guards, and like the bash plate on the bottom, and I was just adding things as I went. So, I mean, by the time I was there, my bike was pretty much fit for purpose. So I was loving it.
Oh,
But, yeah,
so do you know where it is now? Then, do you know where the bike still
yeah,
is?
it's in Medellin. There's a group of people in Medellin who helped us out with loads of stuff.
Wow.
They retrieved my bike. I'm trying to remember how I even got to Medellin. I mean, so much stuff happened without me being aware of it because I was on another planet.
Yeah.
But these people, like, they even picked my parents up from the airport. They sorted out loads of stuff. They've still got my bike. I'm not going to say the person's name because they want me to, but there's a person in Colombia who's been like my point of contact. And yeah, I don't really know a lot of stuff that happened, to be honest. And there's still things I think I need to get back to Colombia and work out. I mean, in my panniers, because I woke up in hospital and I had my phone. It didn't even, obviously, I had a quad lock case, and I woke up and I had no case on my phone, none of my possessions. I was literally naked in hospital, and my phone was just on my chest. And I woke up like, this ain't great.
Yeah.
But then when I was in Medellin, all of my possessions turned up, including in my panniers. I had, like, like you would have had as well, like for emergencies. I had $100 worth of dollars, and I had about $100 worth of Colombian pesos, and they came with all my stuff as well. Like, nothing was missing. So yeah, there's a lot of things I need to work out what actually happened. But the good people of Colombia looked after me. So, yeah.
Again, people are good. People are good.
Yeah.
Most people are good. Most people
are good. Some people are good, but yeah, they've got those same people have my bike, and I trust that it's. I mean, realistically, there's not much you can do with it anyway. It's smashed to bits, but yeah, I don't know what I'll end up with that. I don't know what I'll end up with it.
And your lovely mum, how's your mum doing?
Yeah, she's not in Colombia still. We bought her own. She's all right. Do you know what? My mum, I think, has got a renewed sense of purpose because she's got a child back living at home, and she's clicked straight back into. I don't know if you've got any. Have you got any kids or not? Like,
I do, yeah, but he's 27, so he's about your age.
Yeah, exactly. I crashed at I've just turned 29, so I'm not far off. But you'll probably have the same thing there, where like I've been away doing my thing for so long, and I'm close to Mum. I speak to her, like, during the couple of years I've been traveling. I came back to, like, surprise her at Christmas and all that sort of thing. So we've got a good relationship, but I've never spent this long with her since I was a kid. Even today, like, if I have an appointment, she just wants to come, and I love it. It's great. I let her come because she actually enjoys it, and we go in the car, we have a chat, get the tune on. It's quite nice. We've got a good relationship, and it's
awesome.
I wouldn't have brought us closer because we were close, but it's just nice to spend time with her.
Mega.
He's
cool. Your dad, how's your dad doing? So you look like you've got a good relationship with your dad as well.
Yeah, he's good. He loves it because everyone on Instagram says he looks like he's my brother. He's not, to be clear. And he had me when he was, like, I don't know, 26 or something. So it's not even like he had me at 16. But on Instagram, everyone always says he looks like we're brothers, which it might be offensive. He's getting right. He's making his head too big.
Nice. Cheers to that, Leslie. Second last one. Nudgers 1, 2, 3. Do you think you'll ever settle for the quiet life?
That's an easy answer.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not in your DNA, I think. By the way,
it's not there. I'm sometimes jealous of people who do enjoy coming home from work, sitting down, watch Netflix, and actually happy with that. But man, I'm restless, impatient, and just desperate to go out and see the world. So it's just never going to happen. It's never going to happen.
Honestly, never say never. Like, I was like you. I definitely was like you, and it's really only in the last few years where it's changed for me. You know, I got married in 2016, and I love my wife, but I still needed to get away all the time, and I was away traveling and doing stuff. Now I travel for a business. You know, I take people away on tours, and I'm away like probably for a week every 2 to 3 weeks from April to October. I'm away, so I'm away quite a lot. But I tell you, I get homesick now, and I never ever used to. But it's things like, again, I'll say this again, I love my wife, but it wasn't until I got a dog, and once I had the dog, it made me start to miss being at home.
Yeah.
It's really weird. Stuff like that just made me start to go, oh, I like home. And it's not just the dog, but it's like your house becomes your home in a weird way, you know. And it's like I like to come back now, and I still have this need to travel, and I still have all these places I want to go. But there's a part of me now that goes, oh God, I don't know if I want to be away for 6 months or a year, or 2 years, whatever it was. Whereas that just never even came into the equation before. It was like, yeah, I could be away for a year, 2 years, doesn't bother me. Like, life will be there when I come back.
The solution might be to get one of those things you see online where you put the dog in like a baby backpack thing and take it with you.
Mate, you haven't seen my dog. She's enormous, and she's a fucking idiot. She wouldn't go on the back of a bike.
I don't know about you though. Whenever I've been away, I've always felt like my bike is home. Like you could be staying in some cabin, camping, whatever it is, and then for me, I get, every day you get back on your bike, turn it on, and it's like, we're back. And it's almost like that. It's the one thing that's constant. Nothing else is constant. The people you meet change every day. The place you stay changes every day. The only constant is being on the bike, and it almost becomes your home. It's a weird feeling because it's a bike. It's not your home, but it felt to me like home a bit.
But it becomes part of you, doesn't it? It's almost like it becomes this living, breathing entity, because I remember, and I still do to this day, when the bike changes, if the bike isn't running the normal way, you notice, don't you? You can feel it if it's missing a cylinder, you can feel it, or you can hear it if it's just not fueling quite right, or something's not right.
Have you ever read Jupiter's Travels?
Oh yeah, Ted Simon.
Yeah, obviously you have. Everyone's read it, but I think it was him that said it in his book, and I resonated with it massively, which was, those, I reckon you know what I'm talking about. You know those days when you get on the bike and something's just not right, and you think that it's bike, and there must be something wrong. There's like checking around, what's going on, what's causing this. But actually, you get on it the day after, and it's totally fine. Yeah. And you realise that potentially the problem that day was just you, and it was something that, like, I can't even. It's something you can't explain. And if you've never done a long trip on a motorbike, I don't think you get what I'm saying. But you just have those days where your bike does not feel right. Every corner feels bad. Yeah. Everything just doesn't feel right. And I actually came to be of the belief that the way I felt my bike was performing was actually a reflection of how I felt that day. 100%. And obviously there were times when the bike was messed up, but I really think that's true. The way the bike feels is actually the way you're feeling sometimes. That's a bit hippie, but
no,
I think
true.
it's true. Yeah.
Here's another book for you. If you like your travel books, have you read the book by Dan? Do you know who Dan Walsh is?
Dan Walsh.
Right. Dan Walsh was a motorcycle journalist back in the, I'd say, late 80s and 90s, maybe even into the noughties. Yeah, it would have been into the noughties. And he worked for like MCN and loads of other people like that. He did a trip, a world trip, and he spent a lot of time in Colombia, and he had lots of issues when he was away, personal issues, and he dealt with a lot of demons when he was away. Just an incredible story. He wrote this book that is called "These Are the Days That Must Happen to You," or "That Will Happen to You," something like that.
I think I've heard of it.
Man, what a book. I'm not a big reader. What a book. It's phenomenal. And he's become like a recluse now. He's just sort of disappeared. Every now and then he pops up somewhere. But yeah, Dan Walsh, that's a really, really good book.
I'm adding that to my list.
Yeah, nice one. Yeah, cool. Right, last question. Wildflower_106. What has been the worst thing about losing your leg besides the pain and recovery itself, such as missing out on traveling, people treating you differently since the accident, etc.?
Wow. Yeah, that's an easy one for me. I truly don't care if anyone treats me differently. My whole life's different anyway. Like I said before, people come up in the street and say they've seen that. That's people treat me differently for all sorts of reasons. The thing which I truly miss and pine for every day is just the ability to go and travel. Like she said in the question, I just miss it so much. I miss my bike. I miss waking up in the morning and wondering what weird shit's going to happen that day. I miss hurtling through the atmosphere and seeing all the scenery and this, and I'm just sat here in my parents' house in my wheelchair looking at old photos and old videos. When I make my little montages I put on Instagram, thinking I miss it deeply. Like actually, like a person, like an ex-girlfriend or dead relative. I physically miss it.
Yeah,
that's probably the hardest thing.
There's a thing that people talk about now, but they never ever used to talk about it, and it's a thing called post-trip blues. And it's that feeling of, I mean, obviously you're on a different level. I appreciate that. But there's a feeling when you have this dream trip, when people have this dream of traveling around the world or traveling across Europe or Russia or America, whatever it is, and you live out that dream. So you do that trip and then you come back home. It's dealing with being back, and that is really hard. Like I consider myself fairly strong mentally, and I've never had depression or anything like that. But I tell you, the first 8 months or so, maybe even a year of being back was really hard to deal with. Really hard, because I experienced everything that you're just talking about, where, it's like you change as a person as well, and you come back and nobody else has. Everyone else is still doing exactly what they were doing when you left. They're still moaning about all the shite that they were moaning about. But you just have this different attitude to life, don't you? You know what's out there and what's possible. Yeah. Mate, I'll be coming back. You can tell. You'll be back doing this stuff.
Oh, yeah, I know. I just, like the word we keep saying, everyone keeps saying, patience, and I've got none of it. I'm sick of people telling me to be patient. I just want to hurry up. If I could go and jump on a flight tomorrow, pick up a bike somewhere and carry on, I would do it in a heartbeat. No doubt about it. I'd be there now, but I can't.
Think of the long game, mate. Think the long game. The more time you spend in recovery, the longer you're going to be able to do what you want to be doing.
The sweeter
uninterrupted. 100%, absolutely. Right, Luke, there's a couple over on Facebook, but I had a quick look at them, and I think we've pretty much covered most of them. So I appreciate you giving me 2.5 hours of your evening, mate. So that's very kind.
I've enjoyed it. It's been a nice chat. I forgot I forget I do all the time. I forget I'm even on like a podcast to start chatting away.
Good, that's what I want. It's just a chat. Yeah. I wish we could do it face to face, mate, but everyone's busy. We've got stuff to do.
When you're next in London, give me a shout.
Right, you're on. Yeah, awesome. Before we call it quits then, pal, I know you've got a massive following anyway, but feel free, plug your social media, plug anything, or say hello to people. The floor's yours. Over to you.
Say hello to people. I'll probably flag this to a couple of the lads I've mentioned, but if you do want to follow my stuff, Luke _Tarrant is my thing on Instagram, social media, but yeah, I'm just happy to have the opportunity to come and talk about my story. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Awesome, mate. All right, folks, if you check out the show notes or look at the YouTube description, there'll be links to Luke's socials down there. So make sure you give him a like, a follow, subscribe, all that sort of bollocks. Mate, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you very much for giving us your time. Folks, hope you've enjoyed this one. You got something from it. Remember what we always say, look after those that you love. Get on out there whenever you can and live your life.
Good message.